Sorry. Oh. Okay. Okay, roll call. Supervisor Bossard.
Here.
I'm here. Treasurer Kowalski.
Here.
Trustee Woods.
Here.
Trustee Markounis.
Here.
Okay, all present.
All right, at this time, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have approval of the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been second, we can do voice vote on that.
Yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Okay, we have approval of the agenda. This time, we'll open it up to public comments on agenda items only. Seeing, no,
Oh, here we have some.
yeah.
Connie Warman, 16 Mile Road. I have a complaint about the condition of the roads, which you probably have already heard from me about. I saw H Drive being restoned, and as far as I could tell, the section of H Drive I have driven was flawless. I look at J Drive. It's pitted, it's patched. You cannot drive, well, a lot of people drive down the center because it's patched on both sides. I do occasionally too, unless something's coming. You hit potholes. What is wrong with the road commission that they waste our money fixing a road that doesn't need it and ignore one that's terrible? And I hear that 13 Mile Road needs it as well. There is something wrong here. I really do not agree with the waste of taxpayer money when they're wasting it. Fix the roads that need it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on. Approval of the minutes for the May 18th and June 18th special meetings.
Approve the minutes for both those meetings.
For a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Okay. We'll move on to the reports. Permits issued. We can see those. The fire chief's not here, and there's a report in there from him. Treasurer, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, just a couple comments. So I think we included in the packet the June and, the May and June financials, as well as my notes. I just wanted to highlight a couple things. We did have 15 evergreen trees planted by MDOT as a screen to M96. They replaced the deciduous trees with evergreens. I did request that MDOT install emergency preemptive control for the fire station #1 for traffic signals at 15 Mile, just west of 15 Mile, and they are complying with that after discussion with Chief Briggs. So I thank Jay and Greg Finella for that. So that should handle an emergency, say in Squaw Creek during rush hour, if there is such a thing from the mega site. I did give corrections on the 425 agreements to the zoning administrator last month as well. So you'll note in June, we had in our liquid accounts, we had a little over $2 million. And then you'll see in June, so that was at the end of May, and at the end of June, we had a little over $1 million. So that reflects the payment for the fire truck and the down payment on the roads, our share of the roads. So we're down roughly 1.1 million from May. And we'll have one of our higher interest rate CDs coming due in August. Tax bills went out right around July 1, along with the newsletter. I did contact MDOT as well about the unsightly grass along the fence adjacent to the carpool lot. They indicated they will only mow the grass 15 feet from the road, so we can expect that grass to basically grow to its natural height. They are going to put together a proposal, which I think Jeff had originally proposed, to add a sidewalk between the parking lots. If the board wanted to consider that, it would be at our cost, and we could enter into a memorandum of understanding if we wanted to mow the grass area. I did request May to repair the ground and reseed the area near the well because they didn't do a very good job. I haven't seen any action. The fire station well, the old fire station 1 well, is ready to go. I just need to pick a time with Jay so we can hook up a fire hose and put the water someplace. That's it.
All right. Sheriff, enhanced patrol activity. I talked with him. He said he couldn't come tonight.
Sheriff Hinckley's
Oh,
here.
you're here. Okay, good. Perfect. You can talk about it. Yeah, Brad can come. Yep, wonderful.
Well, thank you. I'll cover Brad's activities. Brad spent 26 and a half hours in the township. He made 58 traffic stops. He wrote 20 tickets. He gave 57 warnings on various issues, and he looks like he arrested 1 person. He assisted with seven premises checks, and he did a field contact, which may have been some related call or something that happened in the township while he was working. So he was pretty busy. I'll just remind everybody, because I appreciate Brad, and I want to tell you how much I appreciate him and how much our part-timers do for not only the village of Homer, but Marshall Township. It's hard to find a part-timer. We have collective bargaining that we have to definitely abide by when it comes to part-time employees. But beyond that, it's hard to find a part-time police officer that has a Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement license. Most of them are retired. It's hard to find one that wants to come back and work a little extra. And by having Brad in a part-time function and some of our village part-timers, it allows our local governments to have a straight time police officer versus overtime. And I know when we started the traffic grant for Marshall Township, it was based on posting overtime for deputies to work in the township. And I don't think we've ever had to do overtime for somebody to work here. And so from my perspective, it's good because it puts more sheriff patrol deputy hours in the township. Because you can do the math, right? If it's overtime, there's going to be less hours. So I just appreciate Brad and our part-timers, what they give back to the community, and Brad really likes working here, so he likes to come to Marshall Township. So I've got 2 more quick things. The next thing is we do have our traffic speed trailer. You've probably seen it on Verona Road a few times. We move it around, but we just remind everyone, we move it around based on where you want it. We don't go out and campaign a spot. So if you have a neighbor or you want somebody, we're looking for a turnkey operation. We want you to say, call this neighbor, go to this address. He wants it in his yard. He'll meet you there. He'll keep an eye on it for you, and we'll put it there. So we'll put that, right now it's in Eckford, and I think it went from Cedar Lake, Verona. It's made a huge round. Right now it's in Eckford. I think it's on its 3rd roll through Eckford. But if you want it someplace and you can just you can make it happen, we'll deliver it, and then we'll pick it up whenever that person is done with it. So that would help. We're getting a lot of use. I was just down to Fredonia Township, and they asked me a big question. They said, Sheriff, statistically, is that helping slow people down? And I'm like, that's a big ask right there. That's a big statistic. I think there's a lot of honest people that just don't realize that they're speeding, and when they see the sign, they adjust, and it's a reminder. So I think it's a good reminder, and I think I've had a lot of neighbors say, I thought there was all these people speeding on my road, but I watched the sign and they really aren't. They just look like they're going fast. So I think it's a good education on both sides. My last thing is the township received from the state of Michigan through some public safety revenue sharing. You're shaking your head and you're going to correct me, but I think it's like $2,300 is what they received, $2,365 or somewhere in that neighborhood. No big deal. So my understanding and the way that I'm learning about that is that that was based on violent crime data reporting. And it sounds like it's violent crime data reporting that we would report when we're in the township, when we handle calls. And they've got this bulk of money and they're separating it and they're providing it to each township, which is a great thing, right? So it could be different next year, just depends on your data. And so every township received an amount. I mean, some of the smaller townships received $900, some received $3,000. Some of the ones, Penfield received quite a bit more. It's pretty easy, and some of the townships are reaching out, and they're asking, well, what do we do with this money? Because what I'm learning and in my research, they gave us a guide when they sent it out, is 75% has to go for law enforcement services, and 25% can go for fire department services. And they lead us to believe that it has to combat violent crime or be used for equipment to do so. So it's pretty easy if you're at the city of Battle Creek or the city marshal or your Penfield Township who contracts, it's pretty easy. You can just allocate that money back to your law enforcement services. But a lot of the townships that do not have law enforcement services say, what can we do with this? And some townships have said, can we contract a deputy? And most times I'm like, for about 5 hours, what that cost, or for a day. So a lot of the townships are looking and they're saying, well, what can we do? Some townships said, well, why don't we just give it to you? And I said, wait a minute, we have to show the public, and we have to say, what is this going for, and how is this helping our township, right? So all together, I did the math a while ago. I think collectively, all of the rural townships that do not have police contractual services that we service, there's about $40,000. And so everybody's looking, well, what do we do with this money? And so we had a couple of good talks. One was with Marengo Clerk, and we thought, if this is an opportunity, maybe it's bulletproof vest for the deputies that serve your community. We relied on, just by chance, we rely on grants for our bulletproof vests. We have around 80 to 100 vests in circulation. They have to replace every 5 years. As you can imagine, they all come up at different times. And so we had a grant that we applied for. It was $49,000. And for this year, the first year ever, we were denied that grant, and we don't know why. But I mean, we're going to buy bulletproof vests. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to buy it. So there's an option there. I'm going to send out an email. I will send all the clerks an email on some of my ideas and my conversations and just some suggestions, whatever you decide, and you don't have to decide anything at all. I suppose you could probably keep it. Some of the townships have said, does this have to go into a special revenue fund, or we're going to be audited here? And those are questions way above my pay grade. I don't know those things, but I do know that the statute was clear. 75% has to go back to law enforcement, and it can be equipment, and I'm sure that bulletproof vests would satisfy that agreement. So I'm going to send out an email explaining all that and seeing if maybe the townships collectively would like to go in and help fund the bulletproof vests. Again, that number could be completely different next year. I don't know what it is, but I thought I'd stop by and discuss that. I mean, we ask for money and then we get it, and then we're like, gosh, we complain about that it's not enough, right? I mean, isn't that the way it always? But we did get that money, and we got it all the way through the county, every county in the state, and every sheriff. I talked to Jackson County. I talked to Sheriff Foreman Kalamazoo. They're doing the same thing. A lot of townships are asking questions. So I'm trying to get ahead of it to see, but I'll send an email out, and then you guys can certainly look at it this way. You're more informed. So any questions you can think of? I suppose too, maybe you could use that to supplement that overtime on that thing too. If you start, I'd be very cautious and maybe talk to your township attorney to make sure, in case you're audited on that, that you're in compliance. But again, outside my bailiwick, I'll do whatever you need me to do, so.
Right.
Have a request.
Uh-oh, okay.
I live in Squaw Creek.
Yep.
And on some of my walks, I go from east over to west. And I would appreciate between the hours of 8 and 9 in the morning,
AM?
yes, 8 to 9.
Yep.
That's usually when I'm walking.
Okay.
Additional patrols in that area, because I know darn well they're going over the speed limit
On A?
on A Drive
On A.
from 15
Yep.
past that last entrance to
Yep, will do.
west section. I
will-
appreciate
if
that.
If Brad's not working, I'll make sure I tell Brian Weberling or one of our traffic cars for sure. Got it.
Appreciate it.
Got it, yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And if you don't mind, I was gonna try to make it to Eckford tonight, so I might slide out of here, so.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Don't wanna be rude. Eat and run, right? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Okay, road department.
Okay, they did, referencing Connie's discussion point, they did do chip sealing on H Drive last month, I believe it was, and that was probably part of the contract, included in the contract when they repaved that 2 years ago. So there's a certain amount of time, they just let it cure, then they go back in and do that. So hopefully nothing will have to be done to H Drive for a number of years. We'll
It
wait.
lengthens the road life out quite a
Yes,
bit when they do
yeah.
it after 2 years, so.
And they also did 17-mile road between G Drive and Old 27. And chip sealed that. The Kesselwood repavement project is in progress. It's been going on for 2 weeks now. I drove through it this morning and they've got all the milling done. And there were a couple of crews out there, and I would imagine they probably started the paving today, but I didn't go back out this afternoon or anything like that. But they got a lot of asphalt to lay out in that area, so it is ongoing. And appreciate Glenn and his efforts in talking with MDOT and getting that preemption control for the lights. And it was needed. And my question is why didn't that conversation get initiated out of the fire board instead of Glenn doing the initiating with
About
MDOT?
what, say it again?
The preemption control, the light preemption control, that if
Oh.
a truck goes out on a service call, that the lights, they just push a button and the lights change. So I don't think Glenn should have been the one that initiated that conversation with MDOT, but I'm glad that he did. And we do have a solution for it. And MDOT, Greg Vanilla, MDOT NJ did decide on the solution, so it is coming. So and that's all I have on that.
It's just a clarification, the original proposal that was offered, I think probably to the township and definitely the city, was that each truck would have a unit in it that would automatically change the signals, and they're about $5,000 a piece. And the city decided to purchase them, and our fire department didn't think it was a good use of funds. So the unit that we will get is mounted in the fire station. So when they're ready to exit for a call, they'll hit the button and it'll shut the lights down. So at no cost to us. I just had one question. Nick, do you know if they're gonna fog seal the chip sealed roads or not?
I do not know the answer to that one. I can ask.
I just see a lot of fog sealing going on in
Right,
the
all over the
county, and
place.
My understanding is they typically do that after chip sealing, but I don't know if they always do it.
Yeah.
It could be a cost thing, that you get what you pay for.
They haven't put the double yellow lines yet down through H Drive, so my guess is they're probably gonna put those lines, and then they probably, at some point, because they have it once you get to Emmett on that side, but normally there's a wait period for the chip seal
The
to,
stones to harden.
yeah, harden in, so it
Then
may
they,
have.
then they brush them off onto your,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
onto your property.
I may refer this to Joanna. Is there a time period between services?
Hello. Yes, there is a time typically after the chip seal that, after it's swept off, that it cures. And then I believe you can double check the contract that you all approved, but if I'm not mistaken, I think fog sealing was part of that contract. You can double check. And then after that time, then pavement marking comes into place. But I think it was in the contract that was approved. Typically, those go hand in hand these days for fog seal.
Is there, I know you did a different county,
Yeah.
but is there a typical time frame between?
It varies. Everybody uses their own recipe, if I should say, best way I can describe it. But
Depends on the
usually,
condition of the
yeah,
road at the time.
it's
too.
usually a couple weeks because they're still, chip sealing and then weather permitting elsewhere in the county. So I'm going to say it's usually a couple weeks before they get to the fog seal, behind a chip seal.
Okay.
Is that the question? Yeah, okay.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Planning Commission?
On Planning Commission, Chair Johnson is going to do a presentation on our draft master plan that the PC's been working on the last several months. And let's see, we have a special meeting tomorrow evening where we're going to have two public hearings. One is on a zoning map amendment right across the 15-mile road from you and then the second public hearing is on a special land use permit for Ericdale Heating and Air Conditioning. So those are tomorrow evening.
All right. Budget report?
Budget report, yeah, so as Glenn said, this is including both May and June. The total dollar amount is significantly higher than previous months, primarily due to two kind of big things that had happened. One, the purchase of the fire truck, which that happened in this, and we're going to be receiving that by the end of July. And then also a substantial payment to the county for the road. So we had to have those bills kind of due in that, and so that's why those numbers are higher. We've officially completed our first quarter of the fiscal year, which normally at that point we do, we relook at the budget and see if we need to do some budget amendments. We looked at the basic meeting for tonight and we're like, oh, this is going to be a long meeting. And so we decided to push those off until next month and we'll do some things. There's a couple categories that definitely stand out in that regard. One having to do with, because of the zoning administrator, a new onboarding of a zoning administrator, we're going to need to move some funds a little bit just to get some of that taken care of for that. And then also the fire department, because of the wages from the Ericdale lawsuit, some of those wages had to come out of it. And while we're still significantly under what that is, it looks like we're at halfway when we're only a quarter of that fiscal year. So we're just going to have to reallocate some monies there. And some of those monies have been given to us back from the insurance agency, but we have to appropriately move them into those buckets officially as a township board. So we'll present those next month. And what else is in there?
And this is just a standard budget procedure.
Yes,
Go through.
we do it every quarter. We take a look at where we're at in the budget and we make adjustments and we say oh, we're gonna, some of our motions, even tonight, we may have things that we didn't anticipate having in the budget And so it's like, hey, where does that money come from? And so we have to make sure that we're funding the appropriate buckets, so to speak, with the monies that we are appropriating, because the clerk cannot spend outside of what's in those buckets. And so that's, we set that budget as this is what we expect it to be. And if we get close to that, then we have to come to the board and say we need to adjust that. So there is one thing that we did have in June. We incurred a late payment on the MasterCard account, and that was because all of that card comes via mail. And if you remember in June, we were not receiving mail because 15 Mile Road was under construction. And so by the time we got it, we were processing, it just got there later than we would have liked it to, but we're just highlighting it for transparency that happened. But we are working to make sure that our bills are paid on time. And our goal is to be able to get them electronically and not through the mail, which is, it's been a challenge to get, like a couple weeks ago now, maybe about a month ago, just getting on the AT&T one we spent several hours just being able to get into that account and then to get it set up, transfer it from the previous clerk stuff into our name. And it just took a day. And so it's still, we're going through that of trying to get things changed over. So yeah, that's if you have questions about that, I'm happy to answer anything on that.
Right.
We have also the FOIA report in there as well. As of last month, we had Kelly Isaacs request of oaths of offices, and we completed that. We gave her those documents so that she has them now. We do have, obviously this is for last month, and so we'll get July's at the end of the month, but there is one more FOIA on a parcel, some inquiry about a parcel, and just someone outside of the area asking questions about it. We've put together most of the documents on that, but we should be filling that out or sending that by the 27th. So you'll see that coming your way, and then it will be in the appropriate folders that we have set up for all FOIA requests so that board members can take a look on the SharePoint of where we are in the process of that. So anytime you have a question of like, has a letter gone out? What's happened? It's all on the SharePoint, so you can see where it's at in the different steps of the process that I described in May. So there you go.
Okay. Then we come to the Economic Development Officer, and I guess that's me. And I met with Derek Perry, and we talked about we're in the housing development at
Millbrook.
Yeah, Millbrook, and in the 50-year. At first, this was for polluted ground, but they included new economic development, and he said that probably the development wouldn't go in. They wouldn't be able to have the rents low enough unless they had this 50-year thing. And then we talked a little bit about the water franchise and just some different ideas. And I was going to talk to some of his things, and probably he's talked to you about him. I'm just going to touch base with you. Just haven't had time to do that. And as far as the supervisor's report, I have people stop at my house. I don't keep track of them. I mean, I make phone calls on their behalf. I mean, one big one is when they put the water line in, there was a lot of trees taken down at a guy's house. And I've been working with him to help. He's supposed to get a new fence, and now it's been 2 years. And so I'm helping him work through those things. All right. Plan Commission presentation. Draft master plan. Joanna, you're on deck.
All right. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Joanna Johnson, your Planning Commission Chair. And before I get started, I do want to make sure and introduce our Planning Commission members who are here this evening. So we have our Vice Chair, Dwayne Sly, and we have Roger Summers, one of our commissioners as well. And did I miss anybody? Nope, I think that's it. Oh, Mick, I'm sorry, Mick. Mick, who is, Mick Woods, excuse me, your trustee, who's the liaison to the Planning Commission and who also serves as our secretary. So this has been a work in progress. There are commissioners, Planning Commission members who are not here, including Steve Riggs, Steve Buller, and then our newest member, Rick Redman. And I do want to acknowledge Christina Marcunas, who served as our secretary and has lived through a good portion of the master plan. So I did want to acknowledge her efforts as well. So just a little background as we get started. The previous plan that I had the opportunity to be on the board, I was fairly new at that time, was adopted, I want to say November of 2022. And believe it or not, we're supposed to review this every 5 years anyway. So next year would have been the time that we would have been reviewing, or at least looking at that master plan again in 2027. Your Planning Commission, began this process in August of 2025, so it's almost a year later. So here's my advice to anybody who decides they want to potentially amend a master plan or look at it, start a year and a half early, because that's really to do it due diligence to it and do it well. You really need that amount of time. So again, huge acknowledgement to the Planning Commission, those that are serving and have served during this process, because it has been literally a process. So with that, if we go ahead and go to the next slide, I just wanted to take a moment, not that we don't all know this, but just to start from the very beginning of what is a master plan. And really this begins with state law, and it's Public Act 33 of 2008. It's the Michigan Planning Enabling Act. And it really says, and I'm just going to read it verbatim, the township, or the master plan, is the township's vision for the future. So it's the future, right? 20, 30 years from now, not that we all know, none of us have a crystal ball, but really looking at what do we want for our township? What do our citizens and residents want, for our township in the future? It considers the character of the township and its suitability for particular uses, and it promotes public health, safety, prosperity, and general welfare. We all know this changes all the time, right? It's pretty fluid, really, because things come before us that we never knew, could potentially happen. I mean, we can just think about the things that are happening today, anywhere, data centers, solar, for just two examples, right? You don't ever know specifically everything that might come before you. So next slide. I took liberties of we took liberties of looking at the Township Guide to Planning and Zoning. This is from the MTA, the Michigan Townships Association. And two things stood out for us and reasons why you might want to amend or look at your master plan. And basically, again, adopted for a variety of reasons, but it's the desire of the Planning Commission and Township Board to preserve the character that first attracted them and others to the community, often initiates the planning process. I'm going to say I think we were at that point. And the next one, which was, for example, the sudden relocation of a major industrial facility to a rural township is not something often anticipated in a master plan. When these events occur, the township must be prepared to review the master plan, the event's impact on the township, and determine the best way to manage the situation. A change to the plan may be warranted, or the township may determine that they wish to maintain a rural character as described in the plan. So these are just things that, are reasons that really brought it forward that it was time for us to look at it before that 5-year mark. And I will share that this is very similar to when the city of Marshall presented the reasons they looked at their master plan, were some of these same reasons. So why, next slide, I'm sorry. So why update the plan now? Again, we just looked through, some of the reasons across the state and even Michigan Townships Association. But again, the state law requires a review at least once every 5 years. Blue Oval and the major campus, I think, are good reasons for us to relook at that. The solar development that we've had, the 425 master agreements and trying to map those, and there's still a lot of work that still needs to take place in that regard. And then we also, the Planning Commission went through a huge review of the zoning map and corrections and actually having a map that we could finally have our clerk sign. So there's been a lot of work there. Again, a very busy Planning Commission that really brought us to reasons why we needed to look at it. Next slide. We wanted to focus, I should say, on some key areas, and this is just a glimpse. Approximately 1,000 acres of our farmland, and again, we all believe in personal property rights, but the realities are that 1,000 acres that went to next year in Cereal City for solar, approximately 500 acres for the Blue Oval, and there's approximately another 1,500 acres that are part of the major campus. That's a huge change in our township, and you can see that on the maps that we have even in this room. There were 49 homes demolished, and I will tell you that is still happening. In your report today, you see building permits that were issued for demolitions. So it's very interesting to me. At the same time, we keep hearing about a housing market, and I'm not even going to talk about affordable housing, but just a housing market, and we've demolished at least 50 homes within our community. And in the same token, and again, these figures were as of 2025, we only issued 2 new building permits in our township that were for 1 and 2 family dwellings. So that doesn't count anything commercial, that's strictly for homes. So that's a huge impact. And then going to the next slide, you're going to see it in a chart form, basically the same information, but just putting it into perspective. We have approximately 40% of the township land area is farmland. And again, the 2,000 acres for major campus and Blue Oval, the 1,000 for utility. We've got about 3,000 acres that were converted. Again, a huge impact. And I'm preaching to those folks who know it even better than me, right? And what's happened and the changes within our community. Next slide. It doesn't happen without community engagement. So in October and November of 2025, the Planning Commission mailed out surveys. I know some people thought it was really long, but we also included questions that the Township Board wanted in that as well. And I do hope this Township Board continuously looks at that and acts on some of that information within the survey. But we also created an electronic survey, and the results are right on our website. You have it on the website. But what people like most about Marshall Township, and remember, we talked about, the character of this township, was the quiet rural setting, the natural beauty, the accessibility to nearby cities, the sense of community, and property housing types, which is interesting. And then what concerns or challenges, do you see in Marshall Township? The loss of rural character, road conditions, speeding or traffic, township communication, and wetland protection. And again, all of this information in much greater detail is available on the website. It's linked there, but if anybody in the audience or anybody wants to look at it in more detail, because there's a lot of comments that we received as well that you're not seeing here, but you can review that if you haven't already. Great detail. So appreciate all the folks that participated in that. Next slide. So that community engagement was very important to the Planning Commission. If I recall correctly, back in 2022, when we had the survey of our current master plan, I want to say 85, I think I have it in my notes here, we had a total of 82 participants. And I'll be honest with you, although I would have loved to have had more than even what we had, it is an improvement. So I guess, glass half full. But that is a very, very important component. So we received 236 responses. We did mail out 1,416. We have held 5 public master plan review meetings. And, if anybody, there's many of us who have sat through those meetings, page by page by page. I will say this 5 does not include the meeting on June 16th that we had, where we made a motion to bring this forward to the Township Board today. But all of it was done within a public format, and feel free to view those on the YouTube channel if you'd like, to really listen to some of the discussion that was had. We also held a town hall meeting, on February 4th. Again, that's another meeting that I so appreciate. I think the 7 people I think that were here would have loved to have had more, but at least we did it, right? At least we had the opportunity. I mean, we could say, you know, it was February. I can't even remember if it was snowing out or not. But the point is, at least we're trying and made the attempt again as an opportunity to have folks participate in that community engagement. And there's more opportunities to come. For instance, today. And there still has to be public hearings. And again, at some point back to the township board. So, you know, I don't have anybody stopping by my house. But Dave, if anybody stops by your house and wants to talk the master plan, feel free to send them my way too, or any one of our commissioners. So, next slide. Again, we are doing an amendment. This is not a brand new master plan. We really used the same format and just added some features, if you will, to it. It's similar format. We hired a consultant previously to do our master plan. I don't remember. I can't find what we've paid for that at the time. This has been done with our whole planning commission, and I have taken lead only from the formatting documentation piece. But again, it's just been a labor of love, honestly, for our community from the planning commission. But here's what's new. It's an amendment, not a new plan. Information links. Let's assume that hopefully these links, you know, wherever they are that we're linking to in the master plan will stay, you know, but we've linked to the laws that are in there if people want to know more, so that you can literally click on that and go to whatever it is we're talking about, or even in our own website. We have updated maps. One of the things we added was Public Act 116 information, and we updated the pavement surface and evaluation rating map from the Calhoun County Road Department. They supplied that data to County GIS and created that map, but that's an added map to that. The survey results are linked. We added a feature on the gravel mine, and that's been part of our community for a very long time, so we added that to it. We added a portion on the Hotchkiss Cemetery, and I know that's somewhere on your agenda this evening. And then we expanded information in it. The Public Act 425, the rural character, the recreation areas, the housing, which was a new component in state law that was added after our previous adoption. And we added more robust information on broadband. Next slide. The implementation and work plan, this really has stayed the same as it was. I will tell you that in the past planning commissions, we did not spend a lot of time using this work plan in the master plan as part of our goals. That's something that we need to do. In each chapter, it ends with things that we should do and look at. And then in the implementation work plan, it's all summarized in a table. And this really should be the goals and elements that the Planning Commission should be working on, right? This master plan isn't supposed to just be sitting on the shelf and go, oops, it's done, you know, we can walk away. It's something that it's a living document. We have to go back to it and address it. And frankly, I'll be very direct. Had we addressed some of the items that were in that work table previously, it might have helped us from where we are today with some of the variances that we've been seeing and some of the zoning variances that we've had to get, our residents have had to apply for. Had we have done some of that work ahead of time, we might be a little bit different than we are today. But focusing forward, it is the goals, and we would be providing information, I would hope, to the board in our annual report on what's been our progress on all those items within the master plan. Next slide. One of the other things we tweaked as well was the vision, and I'm going to read it. The new vision statement isn't too different than the current one, but it says, the township will preserve its rural character for generations by thoughtfully managing growth while protecting agriculture, existing neighborhoods, and natural resources, and directing new development exclusively to the designated public utilities corridor. And I'll talk about that in our frequently asked questions. Next slide. So what is our timeline, right? So again, I already mentioned, we've been working on this since August of 2025. We are now at the point where we have a draft in front of you, our township board, and it's really up to you at this point. What our ask is that we can put this document out for distribution for a 42-day period to seek feedback, right? When we do come back before you again, it may not look the exact same, right? The whole idea is to to ask and hopefully get additional feedback on our draft master plan. And then that 42-day period and comment period, review and comment period, then we would have, the Planning Commission would have a public hearing. And then the Planning Commission, considering all of the comments that we receive, whether it be from the 42-day period or at the public hearing, if there's any modifications, and then we would adopt the master plan and to be sent back to you all again for potential approval. So that's a quick bird's eye view of what that process would be. So if we're lucky, and I say that in terms of, again, feedback is always welcome, but we're not going to let the sense of urgency overcome our sense of quality, but the hope is maybe by October of this year, we will have a master plan completed. So it's well over a year process. So again, you need like a year and a half. All right, frequently asked questions. So what benefits does a master plan provide to the township board? Well, a master plan, obviously, it's a legal document, if you want to say. It gives us a defense, right, for some of the rhyme or reason behind our decisions, right? It develops a framework and supports our zoning ordinance. And how does a master plan help manage future development pressures? Well, we've had a lot of pressures, I would say, here and continue to do in Marshall Township, but it provides guidance. It's not the end-all, but it does provide guidance for evaluating proposals, helps protect our rural character, which is what we heard from the public and our residents. It supports infrastructure planning. It ensures consistency, and frankly, consistency builds trust. And it provides appropriate areas for growth and development. I think that's one of the key areas or key takeaways. Next slide. We've heard a few questions on how does the future land use map affect my property taxes? Well, the future land use map does not affect your property taxes. It's a planning tool, not a taxing tool. And so up on the board there is the current future land use map next to the corrected zoning map. But that future land use map with Planning Commission has nothing to do with your taxes. So why not leave the future land use map the same as the one that's up on the wall right there? Well, again, I think I've pretty much beat this up, but the township has undergone significant changes, including the amount of farmland that's been converted to commercial and industrial, primarily due to the Public Act 425 agreements. So the draft future land use map that's in the draft amended master plan really considers where we want that pressure and where we want to preserve our ag and residential areas. Next slide. In our vision statement and updated vision statement, we mentioned the public utilities corridor. We like our acronyms, I'll call it PUC, versus what we currently have in our master plan called an urban growth boundary, EGB. Well, the PUC or the public utilities corridor really assists with directing new development exclusively to designated areas, considering future growth in utilities. Frankly, if we continue on this path, the township isn't going to exist, in my personal opinion, because that thread of utilities and potential further 425 impacts will erode the township even further. But again, that's my personal opinion. But that's why we really, as a planning commission, focused on only a few key areas where we would want that growth to continue within that designated area. And does the future land use plan change the current zoning? No, the future land use plan does not change the current zoning, which is the map there in back of Liz. So it does not change that at all. Now, are there goals within that last chapter under the implementation and work plan that we as a planning commission need to look at? The answer to that is yes, because we've received some variances with our current zoning map that need to be reviewed, but that has its own process, right? Its own public process, its own public hearing. And I think I'm almost done. The last set of frequently asked questions, which is what happens if the township does not update the master plan? Well, certainly I hope, and I think we've made the case that we should, and we've certainly worked very hard at it, but the township risks outdated guidance, weaker legal defensibility, and potential misalignment with community goals. It could also face challenges in the future based on some of the decisions that we make, even at the planning commission level. And then if someone believes the current zoning map is incorrect, should we delay the master plan amendment until it's fixed? And I believe the answer to that is no. A master plan and zoning map are completely different tools. We're talking about a long-term document versus something that frankly could change even with property splits, any zoning that's been approved. All of those things could change the current zoning map. That's totally separate from the master plan process. And let's see, I think that is it. I'm back to thank you and questions, but again, our ask on behalf of the Planning Commission is that the Planning Commission respectfully requests that the Township Board authorize the Planning Commission to distribute the proposed master plan amendment in accordance with Public Act 33. Upon distribution, the required 42-day comment period will begin, and following the close of that period, the Planning Commission would schedule a public hearing, after which the final amended master plan would be forwarded to you all for consideration and approval. So with that, and any one of us on the Planning Commission, I'm sure happy to answer any questions.
Sure. I will just say, because I recorded a lot of those meetings, the work that the Planning Commission has done on this, they've gone sentence by sentence, trying to make sense of every sentence to make sure, does this reflect what the survey says? Does this reflect, they have gone through each sentence to make sure it's clear, the clarity of each sentence within each of those things. And it wasn't one person, it was every single one of those people on the board. And I will say something that wasn't said here is they've not only done that work, but they've gone to get training to understand all the things about zoning, the amount of training our Planning Commission undergoes to make sure that they understand before they make decisions about things is very impressive. So I just want to first say it to you, but on behalf of the whole Planning Commission, thank you for your due diligence of really taking this seriously, not just, well, it's my opinion. You're really concretely thinking about what that is. So I just want to say thank you on that. But my one question would be, and kind of just to speak to it, it's also important because one of the criteria to determine what happens with a parcel is to look at the future land use of that.
That is indeed the case. If you, that absolutely don't, in all transparency, yes, that is one of the components for a review, say, of a zoning map amendment or anything along those lines, is to look at the future.
Yeah. So that's another reason why this is so important, and it's important that we get this right. So again, thank you so much for what you've done.
It's a team effort.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Supervisor, if allowed at this time, I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the Planning Commission to distribute this draft master plan in accordance with the Michigan Planning Enabling Act, PA 33 of 2008.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded.
Me too, and I even underlined.
Roll call vote on this.
Yeah. I'll rewrite that later. Supervisor Bossard,
Yes.
Trustee Markounis,
Yes.
Treasurer Kowalski,
Yes.
Trustee Woods,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. That motion has been approved.
All right. Okay, at this point, we're going to move on to number 9, discussion update items. Request for board to approve and complete review of contracts to ensure the value and cost effectiveness of the contracts. And Glenn, your name
Yeah,
is.
and so just very quickly, one of the things I've been finding as I've looked through bills is that I think there's some opportunities, especially in our, I'll say, annual agreements or whatever the time period is, to save some significant money. The one example was Comcast internet service and phone service. We went from $600 to $300 and probably quadrupled our speed and have a battery backup. So I just listed some items, but I think what I was really looking for is, board consensus, or we can make a motion. It's something I think the clerk and deputy clerk and I can work on together. I think we could use the contract period times, as a trigger possibly. One example, I've done a little bit of work, I believe we pay about $20,000 for our auditor. I polled Emmett, they pay about 10,000. Convis pays about 9,000 and Marengo pays about 5,000. So there's, Plant Moran is an extremely good company. The question is, do we need that level of service, I guess I'll say, for an extra $10,000. So I could make a motion if we think it's important to, make a motion that we review all of our contracts as they come due for competitiveness.
Can I just ask a clarifying question with that? And I agree. I 100% agree. I think we need to look at all these from time to time to make sure. And so, like, I know we just signed a couple of them, and so it's like, what would be a good lead time to make sure we can get enough bids in? Like if we know, like, like I think we had some that we recently signed, but like, how much lead time would you like to have in that maybe, so that we can start gathering that info before we have to make a decision?
Yeah, I mean, I think generally a month you can,
Yeah.
get quotes and I think our surrounding townships, I look at Emmett Township as a bigger township, right? And so sometimes their things cost a little bit more, and I look at Convis as a little bit smaller, and I look at Marengo as a lot smaller. So they're good reference points, but I think we can get quotes fairly quickly. Like in the case of the auditors, each one of them has an auditor. Two of them are extremely happy with them. Marengo isn't.
Yeah. And then that way if we get a month in advance, then we can make sure it's at the board meeting so that the board can vote on which direction to go with that too, I think would make sense.
Well, I guess we could look at like the cancellation notice policy in each contract
Yeah.
too, probably to determine how soon.
Yeah.
I was also wondering, I guess, falling under any other regular service contract, would that include contract for the personnel that we have supporting the township, as in the assessor and the field inspectors and office manager, those types of contracts too? Could we cover those at the same time?
I'm sure we can. I mean, I think those are slightly different because they're in-house employees of sorts. So I suppose they're a little, I would think of them differently. But,
Okay.
like, for example, we have a review that's due for office manager within the next month or so. So you might look at that differently and not necessarily go out and get quotes for, or
I think it's like
resumes for office
Getting
managers.
quotes or anything, but just looking at the contracts in general.
Sure, yeah.
I think it's like third party is what I think it was. But I mean, if you want to include that, that's, that's a different, it's like internal staffing versus,
Okay, I
third
see what you're
party.
saying. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I can second that.
Yeah.
I'll be happy. Sorry. Motion two, 1, 2.
We have the discussion before then.
Sorry, yeah. So Kowalski made a motion and I supported it. I will support that. To review, I'm gonna just write the number 9A. That makes it easy.
Okay, roll call vote.
Treasurer Kowalski,
Yes.
Trustee Markounis,
Yes.
Trustee Woods.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Supervisor Bossert?
Yes.
Okay, motion is approved.
And we'll go on to condition of the township hall and grounds.
So again, I brought this up. I spend quite a bit of time here, it seems, and sometimes I'm walking around outside with Shelley because she's smoking a cigarette. And, but our township hall appears to be, between the weeds, growing, which I know Mick is, last year I remember him picking some of the weeds up, bushes, some of our gutters are just leaking, they just have holes in them. We've got wires hanging off of the roof, we've got old antennas. I showed Wayne, we've got, I think what used to be the system that activated the tornado sirens that's sitting in the assessor's office that has an antenna somewhere. And it just seems to me we've got to start looking at how do we make this look better? I mean, we missed, I shouldn't say the past board missed an opportunity to replace this building, which was the original proposal. And, we could have had something like Emmett Township away from this site, but it didn't happen. So now we have this building. It is, I'll just note, it is part of the office manager list of duties. So that would be one, way to maybe get started is get the office manager to take a look at some of these items and get quotations for whether it's landscaping on a regular basis or do we need new gutters? So that was just my thought. It is a reflection of the township when people come to town hall.
I will say, I want to say, I don't know if it was last month or the month before, we had a fire exit sign that came down and Carl took care of that and fixed it. Was able to get a new one in place. And so I know he is looking at things as they come. We have done, I put last minute a quote in here, and this is actually, so let me give a background. Glenn had mentioned this to us and said, hey, like the township ground kind of looks, and you're not the only one that said it. Other people have said this as well. We have heard that and so we said, oh, we should probably take a look at this of what it is. So we first went to our landscaping our lawn care company, because we're like, maybe they do it. And they're like, no, we don't do landscaping. That's not what our business does. But this is the budget or basically this recommendation came from them. This is who we go to when it comes to landscaping. And we looked into BSNA, and this is who they've used we have used this company in the past to do some things. I'm not suggesting we use them, but it's at least a first starting off point. There are two different quotes here. The first is kind of a very low level, just because we just want to see what would be the range that we're kind of looking at, and we can get more quotes on this, but a range of just clean up, doing the bare minimum to kind of clean things up to make it look nicer with what we currently have, versus some of the suggestions that this land, to do a larger upgrade would be to not do the rocks because we get all those weeds going up all through those rocks, but to do maybe mulch, which might be easier to take out some of the dead plants, replant and make that all look nice. To do that would be the second quote. So it just kind of gives you a range of here's, bare minimum, what are some things that they saw that could be done from a landscaping perspective? And then here's more of if we were to kind of redo that as well, what that could look like. So this is the first. We'll get other people as well, but this is we just wanted to see what a range was and was curious from the township board. Before going further, are we interested in more of a short-term little things, or are we looking more of an overhaul in how the township outside looks from that. So that was just a question that I'm curious from your guys' perspective.
Well, to me, there's some low hanging fruit, right? There's weeds and I don't know if the gutters would be, gutters are relatively inexpensive. But, you know, so I guess what I was gonna suggest is we kind of make that list of, you know, maybe everything, but then prioritize it from a standpoint of ease of getting it done and lower cost versus, you know, the larger costs.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was gonna say, my only concern with like an overhaul too would be like, then getting those plants established, like who's gonna care for it? Or is it just gonna die and then we're gonna have to rip it out?
One of the things on the rocks up here in the front of the building, that's drainage. Because we had a water problem here, and that's why we put the rocks in there. Because there's drains in there that drain at the building, so.
Good to know. Yeah. I mean, and the other question, I know we had talked about at one point, is, you know, like this year we did quite a lot, right? Like we have a lot on our plate, but is it also like renovate, you know, gutting the inside and redoing it is something that's always been talked about, or at least in terms of the office space because of how different it looks. So it's like, you know, what are people interested in that? You know, we could service it better so that it's easier for people to find the zoning administrator, the assessor's offices and stuff like that. It could maybe be more conducive for elections in some aspects, you know. So that's, you know, do we, you know, because we get comments sometimes about, whoa, this looks old, you know, but it's also money, you know, and we have to be good stewards of taxpayer money as well. So, you know, my wonder is, if we do stuff like that, will that impact some of the other building changes that we're thinking about as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a continuum, right? You've got stuff that's easier and lower cost, and then you've maybe got a vision of using our space better. At the same time, you know, we got an air conditioning unit that's, you know, it's not on its last legs. I had Eric Dale out, and, you know, the unit that's on top of the old part of the building it's functioning fine. And but if you were to do something significant, you wouldn't put it on the roof, and you wouldn't have one area that's, you know, 60 degrees and the other area that's 80.
Yeah.
So.
Would you want, are you asking for then maybe we kind of go through and make an itemized list of all the things?
That would be my suggestion, and again, I think it is part of the job description for the office manager, so I don't think we have to necessarily all be working on it, but we could give input if it's helpful.
Yeah, you could have him make a list because it sounds like a lot of it's maintenance stuff.
Well, have him take the lead, and then as we're walking it through, we'll make notations and compare it against his list
Right.
and see what we come up with.
And then prioritize what you're gonna get fixed
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. Low hanging fruit first, so,
Well, the things that need to be done.
yeah.
Okay.
So I will talk to Carl then tomorrow and have him start working on that, creating a list so that by next meeting, we can kind of have that. We can let the board members see what that list kind of, have them walk around, maybe talk to, you know, because it may be some things where we need, you know, Frank Ballard to, you know, built from a building inspection standpoint to make sure we're up to code. It may, you know, may have to get some other opinions on this as well, just to make sure that we're not missing something that's significant. So I'll have him put together a list of these things. And then do you also want him to start looking at getting pricing for the repairs of these things? Or do we want to wait until we prioritize a list and then get pricing for those items?
Personally, I'd wait and see what we come up, what the list
Right.
shows us, and then we can make a decision on prioritizing which items, and then get the pricing at that point.
Okay. I don't think there needs to be a motion on this. I can just, this is something I can communicate.
Right.
And then we'll make sure that we put that on, I'll make sure I put that on the next couple agendas, that we'll do prioritization in the month of August. And then we'll get pricing for September of the things that we prioritize to at least know. And then we can decide when the appropriate time would be to, like, oh, we're gonna take, like, when that we feel that makes sense.
Okay. Let's see, roles and processes for planning commission, zoning administrator, integration with clerk and office manager.
Yeah, so again, my item, we have a zoning administrator that's come on board, Shelley Briggs, and so it just appears to me that because some things that we'll cover in D keep surfacing, that we've got to find a way for those two roles to integrate. We spend, almost $99,000 on those two people. And I think we have to find a way to make sure that we're fully utilizing them so that there isn't gaps or there isn't an overload of one individual versus the other. I think if I understand, the zoning administrator's direction comes from you, Dave, and I think the office manager, the direction comes from you, Wayne. So, maybe that's a way to start, talking about collaboration. I think there was an item that came up. I think, Dave, you came in and talked to Shelley. Apparently the discussion didn't go any further than that. So there's some gaps, I think, in our supervision that we probably need to close. So it's a general observation. You two could do whatever you would like with it.
I can say from working in the office, I think there's something that I would say is we're missing a handbook for employees in general that talks about processes that need to happen within the township. And I think there's, also some lack of clarity on who's in charge and who is ultimately responsible for different things. And that includes even, like, for example, I'm in charge, as a clerk, I'm in charge of elections, but I let Colleen handle a lot of the election work. But at the end of the day, I'm still responsible for anything that happens under, like if something falls through that Colleen doesn't get done, it's still on me as the clerk that falls under me. And so I think that there's these trees of work and responsibilities of, like, when it comes to zoning, anything zoning falls under our zoning administrator. Now, we can have the office manager help and assist in those areas, but ultimately, at the end of the day, Shelley is responsible to make sure that all of those things happen at under zoning administrator, because that's underneath anything that's administrative under zoning. And Carl, from talking to him, has been able to help out in sending out those notices and stuff like that. But a lot of the reasons why those things didn't happen before is because it's like, well, this notice needs to go out. Well, we didn't have all the information, like Carl didn't have all the pieces to be able to send out those notices. And so it's one of those things we're working on, trying to get processes in place so that if Carl has all these things, then he can send it out in a timely manner. But then if it's something that has to happen on a Thursday, that changes of who has to do it, because Carl doesn't work Thursdays. It's Shelley works on Thursdays. So there's just some things like that from a handbook perspective that would clarify a lot of those roles and responsibilities. And a lot of that stuff can be found in MTA, but then there's also outdated ordinances that we can point to later, that it's like, wow, that says that this person should be doing this, but outdated in the sense it's like, wait, does that make sense based off of how things are working, which we'll talk about in the next one. So, yes, I think we need to do something. I think it starts with a handbook. We have each of these job descriptions, but they don't communicate how those jobs work together. And I think that Liz and I have talked about it, that we would like to start and maybe try to gather it as best we can and then bring it before the board. And then the board can then, at least we'd put a draft together and the board can then decide like, yes, this makes sense. No, this doesn't make sense. And kind of get some feedback there to do it. But it's, we're trying to get through elections right now in August before we start doing that. So,
Right.
but yeah, I agree. Things can be better, but I think part of it's because we just, processes were just in people's heads. Our previous zoning administrator was doing multiple jobs. That job got split. It got, so like he was doing more than what was in that job description at times. And so we don't have a clear example because we haven't had a zoning administrator for a long time. Now we have Shelley. So the planning commission was doing things that traditionally the zoning administrator would have. So it's just trying to clarify what falls under each umbrella and who's ultimately responsible, and then how to communicate that to the right party when it needs to be.
And Carl's willing to do all the things to get the notices out. He just has to have the information.
Right.
And sometimes he wasn't getting the information to get the notices out. And
Right.
I thought we had that when I talked to Shelley, and I guess Shelley wants to talk to me. She texted me today, so.
Yeah, I think the handbook's a great idea. I think we just need to come to grips with some things sooner than later when they rise up. In other words, Shelley has to have a way to, raise up her concerns, and Carl the same way, right? And at the same time resolve the differences of opinion, so that we don't have an office manager saying, no, I'm not going to do that, and it gets unresolved.
Yeah.
So that's all I had on that.
Okay.
Item D is a follow on, and that these are specific items, I think, from Shelley.
Yeah.
She has a particular, and again, we have to remember, this is what she did, different organization, but I think she has a pretty strong background in zoning administration, and I think we really need to, where appropriate, really support those actions. So she's looked at the building application review and process fee improvement. I think this is where there's some disagreement on when to charge the resident who comes, with an application. Again, I think it's a zoning administrator area. I think she's brought up neighbor complaints. I think she did an MTA kind of survey. What I saw from the responses were that most townships that were responding were saying they're completely anonymous up to the point where there's a FOIA request. And that's assuming that the complaint actually has the person's name on it. At this point, there's a disagreement there between our office manager and our zoning administrator. And then the postage meter, I think, was just something she brought up that she does certified letters, I believe, and she thought that might, I don't know, maybe save some money. I'm not sure the scope.
Save money and time because she wouldn't have to go to the post office with stuff.
Right. I think it's $30 a month or something is what I heard, but so it's kind of a cost benefit, post office isn't that far. So, I mean, it's, somebody has to decide, somebody should make a proposal or maybe it's a small enough fee that you just do it. I don't know.
So so can we go through each one of these a little bit? Yeah. So the first one with the, I want to make sure that, as you said, we support and this. She has a lot of really good ideas about putting into BSNA applications. And so she's trying to change those processes. And so she needs, confirmation from the board that this is what the direction we go. So the question would be in this case with building application review process, currently, at least with, I guess the second one, they kind of go together. The zoning application is a new application. Our ordinance says that we need to have a zoning application, but we have not traditionally been doing zoning applications in our township in that way. What has happened is we have someone comes in with a zoning application, it works with the zoning administrator on something, they work back and forth until it gets approved. And once it gets approved, then it goes into the system, into our system, and they pay their fee. So the fee gets paid at that point, the zoning gets approved. Shelley's suggesting that, hey, to start work on this thing, we should be collecting the zoning fee when they apply it. Now, the person, from talking with her and her presentations at the Planning Commission, if someone needs to continually like, oh no, you don't have this right, or this isn't quite right, you need to change this, that wouldn't be a new fee every single time. They've paid their zoning fee. I think that if it was every single time, I think I'd have a problem with that. But then it would be automatically entered into BSNA so that we can see where the process, where an application is within the process of it. Is it still at the beginning? Has it been approved yet? And so then we can also see why are zoning applications being denied. We can keep track of those things, and we can do that all into BSNA and have it digitally rather than have all this wonderful file cabinets full of paper that are so fun to try to search and find these things. So, but that's a question. That's not what we've done. Like I said, our ordinance says that we should have a zoning application. It hasn't been implemented. Recently, Carl has been starting to do it. There's, we're still working out the bugs on that. But the question is, do we want to get those before they're approved into BSNA and start tracking it that way? Or does the board want to wait until it's been approved as we have been doing it? Those are two different ways, and I think the board has to make a decision on which way we're going to move in that direction.
From talking to Shelley, I think it's a good idea to probably start putting them in the BSNA, because then we have a record of what we've done. And I see her point about collecting the fee, because we're doing work for it. So
Does BSNA track every input, or does it only start tracking once you do the approval for that?
I think as soon as you start uploading it into BSNA, again, there's different modules in it, but as soon as you put it into BSNA, Shelley has the opportunity to add notes to it. She has some different ways to annotate where it's at in the process. So to me, it's a good, it's just like my FOIA report, right? It's a clear way of being able to see where something is within the process of someone's asking to do this, right? If we never get it approved, we would never actually know what people are asking, So this at least lets us know what are people coming in, trying to do from a zoning perspective. Do you want to add anything to anyone from the Planning Commission? Okay. Yeah.
So Joanna Johnston again, your PC chair. So Shelley did share some of this at the last Planning Commission meeting as well. And BSNA with many modules, but there's a building module, for instance, where you can track all of this. And I think, again, the board establishes the fees, right? You've got a fee schedule. And that really isn't for a profitability. It's for when work begins. And work begins as soon as that application is handed in. So I think the vision, and again, maybe most of you spoke to Shelley more than even, Dwayne and I have, or the Planning Commission, but I think the idea is when that application comes in, whatever the application is, right, is that application is completed along with the fee, and it gets put in, no matter what application it is, right, whether it's building or zoning, into BSNA, or into the software, let's just say that. And then we're going to, exactly what you've all just said, we can track it, right? We can track what are we seeing that's coming in without, because once it gets into a filing cabinet, or if we're not recording it, we don't know. We don't even know what's coming through. So I think part of that too is that training and really teamwork, going back to previous item, I think is that teamwork that, the office manager takes it upon intake, right? Puts it into BSNA and gets the fee. And, again, these are internal procedures, but, and then gets it to whoever is supposed to get it, right? Whether it be Shelley or, maybe Frank, if it's building, or I don't know, but that office manager takes it upon intake and gets it to the right person and collects the fee. I think that was part of it, but I'm just here, as one person on the Planning Commission trying to support the effort. It just can't be the way we've always done it. I think it's time that we use the software and what we have available to us, and the expertise, and teamwork, honestly. It has to be teamwork.
So we have, I don't know all the modules, but BSNA is new for Shelley for sure. And because we're on the version that is not cloud-based, we can't buy any new modules. They stopped selling any new modules for existing customers about 2 years ago. But she's been digging into, how to use it. Again, I think, improved cooperation there and how we're utilizing it. I think making sure there's clarity on when we're accepting applications, are they complete? That communication has to take place. And then I think she's developing, a best practice for BSNA. What that is, I don't think we are going to know, and I don't think we need to know. But and I guess that would be my only point, is I think we need to let the zoning administrator do her job. And I don't personally want to micromanage the zoning administrator. I think, Dave's been assigned to supervise that role. The clerk is assigned to supervise the office manager. I don't think we all have to get involved in every little detail.
I think it's a process thing, though.
Right, and this module, is that the one she keeps calling Build It, or?
Yeah, the
And
building.
you can only get that through the cloud-based?
No.
She has it.
We have the,
Yeah.
so Carl uses, so the permits, documents, and I'll say data go into a BSNA module right now. I think what Shelley is looking at is how can we expand the use of that tool into the zoning end of things, and maybe escrow account information and so on and so forth. So but it's new for her. And so she's got to get some help on understanding. I think she's talked to the city about how they use it. And I assume she'll talk to other townships that might be using it as well. I think Carl uses it at Convis because he's a zoning administrator, I believe, up there. So again, if he can help, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, at least from my perspective, I think Carl could take in the applications. He could upload that to BSNA, take the fee. But at the end of the day, I think it's still, Shelley's responsibility. Like, if something's not perfectly filled out, that's her responsibility to communicate with that resident or what have you. I mean, his job is at the desk to be able to take those applications, and he can do a once-over look over it, but at the
Create
end
the
of
entry.
Say it again?
Create the entry.
Create the entry into BSNA, I think at the desk, take the fee. And then once it's in that module, then it's on her to, at that point, take it from there and work with the resident and making sure that, if something needs to be adjusted or fixed, you can do that from a zoning perspective.
But if we can catch it at the beginning, why wouldn't we want to catch it at the beginning, right?
Well, he's taking the application, it's that,
Right, so the application being complete is important. So if you're saying we can take incomplete applications in and then give it to Shelley and then she has to go find the resident and follow up with it, it seems kind of ridiculous to
Right.
me. I think if you can have the feedback, so if Carl isn't understanding what he needs to collect or he isn't doing it, that feedback kind of builds that improvement so we don't have to fix things.
Like I said, we can have him do the best that he can at the ability, but at the end of the day, she is a zoning administrator and it's her responsibility to work with that individual.
Follow up or
To
something
follow up,
that
right,
maybe it looks complete, but she needs more information type of thing.
right.
Okay.
So I will put a motion on the table for the application for building application and zoning applications. Comes in with the fee at the start to Carl, which he will put directly into BS&A, which then he will send, I don't know how that looks of sending it over to Shelley once an application has come in, but at that point would notify Shelley that there is an application.
I'll second.
Do we want, well, we probably need a cost on the postage meter.
Well, we can do the neighbor complaints. I'll talk about that one next and then move on. Should we do a roll call?
Yeah, we must have done roll call.
Okay. Treasurer Kowalski,
Yes.
Trustee Woods,
Yes.
I will vote yes. Supervisor Bossard,
Yes.
Trustee Markounis.
Yes.
Okay, and I will let Carl know about that next. So the neighbor complaints, anonymous versus not. Traditionally, we have not. If someone calls and say who, first off, we don't take complaints unless a form has been filled out. So we have a form. If there's a complaint, it has to be taken in by a form, and they have to fill out their name that in the filled out form. That's how we take complaints. And then from there, we then escalate that and whether we do, what we do with those complaints. So like if it's a blight issue or if there's, someone's encroaching on someone's property, then the zoning administrator goes out and looks at those things. Traditionally, how things have happened, if someone calls up and said, let me know about this. And it's like, well, so-and-so let you, it's the information is immediately given. As Glenn has said, on other townships that do it, they force people into doing a FOIA request. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't give that information out unless a FOIA request has been given. Granted, we can do that. We can go to the FOIA requests application where, that process, it is more work, there is a paper trail with that, which is fine as well. But that's something that the board would have to decide. And then there's the secondary question of, when she worked for SEMCCI, she's like, oh, we'd allow anonymous tips as well. We're a public body, that is a question if, I don't know the legal, if that's a wise decision, because if someone says, leaves anonymous tips, how does that work with FOIA requests and other things that come in if we do that? But yeah, I think there would still have to be a form. I think we owe it to our residents. I think a FOIA request could make sense if we want to do it that direction, but that's something we need to decide as a group what we want to do.
So several of the townships that answered in the MTA that she threw out there, I guess I'll say question, said they do anonymous complaints. And the only issue I could see with that, I mean, at the end of the day, if there's a complaint, the zoning administrator follows up on the complaint. If there's, the only problem I could see is if we start getting a lot of crying wolf situations where there's nothing to go see. I just didn't like my neighbor.
Exactly, well,
That's, and maybe they need to go talk to their neighbor that they're gonna complain about.
right.
And that's, that's always the first benefit, but, that doesn't always work. Some neighbors are friendlier than others, so
Right.
I know that very well.
And I think that's the main concern is by somebody reporting this is, given the day and age that we are in, they're concerned about their safety, about the backdraft. And, it's a viable concern for sure, so.
I don't know where there would be a legal issue. I mean, at the end of the day, again, all we're doing is sending a zoning administrator out to follow a complaint. If she comes back and says, look, I'm going out on, calls that are ridiculous, well, then we got another problem, but.
Yeah. I mean, that opens a different can of worms that we just haven't.
But do we have a written process? Because apparently this is another area where there's a serious disagreement between the zoning administrator, who I think should be handling this, and the office manager. But do we have a written process that says we have to fill out your name and address and phone number and everything?
That's what we have. I mean, we have a form for complaints, and we don't follow up on complaints without a form. And that's been going back as far as I know with, even with Paul, so like, to me, it's like, I think a document trail is important. If you start getting anonymous stuff, it's going to be really hard to at least from that perspective, to keep track of things if we don't, and to follow up to make sure if we have questions about an anonymous tip. Like, I mean, if we get zoning applications and other applications where things are not clear in how people communicate, you just get random complaints of like this neighbor, like, well, I don't, like, we need to be able to call and ask questions about what specifically is the issue, when is it happening, how, like, so that we can accurately do it. If we get an anonymous tip, we may not know how, like, is it a noise violation? When? What time is this kind of happening at? It doesn't give us all the information. It doesn't allow us to follow up on that person.
Well, if there's not enough information, then you just don't do anything with it, right?
But then
It's
it looks
simple as that. I mean, I don't understand why this is so difficult. To me, I'll make a motion that we allow anonymous complaints, and that we do not require people to give their name, address, and phone number.
I'll second.
When she goes out, she's not like, I guess just because I haven't dealt with this process, but when she does go out to like address something, it's not like she's giving the information out anyways. If somebody is, like, that's just for our personal use, correct?
No, what the situation today would be if she comes out and you are the neighbor and you call the office, Carl tells them who made the complaint.
Okay.
like I said, there's multiple options where we could also.
I was gonna say, you could almost just not share who made the complaint, but you have it for like.
FOIA, if they could FOIA it at
Or,
that point.
yeah.
But it allows you to also follow up with the person and say,
Well,
like,
that's
this is
why
how
I
the
was
township.
like, maybe we use it, but don't tell
Yeah.
so-and-so.
We don't have to give it to them, but
Okay.
we could make it under a FOIA, they could request it,
That's the other option right there. Yeah.
So there's been a motion, it's been supported. Should we do a roll call on that?
Okay, so what's the
Yeah, so
motion that we?
the motion is to allow anonymous complaints to not require name, phone, and address when filling out a complaint form. Did I capture that properly?
Right.
Okay.
And I think if that does not work, we can always go back and readdress it at some future point in time.
Okay,
We'll see how that goes.
okay. Ready? Okay. Trustee Woods?
Yes.
I will vote no. Supervisor Bossard?
No.
Trustee Markounis?
Yes.
Okay. Treasurer Kowalski?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Okay. The last one is the postage meter. It's $30 a month for a postage meter. And again, there is cost savings in terms of a mileage savings for her because she has to do certified mail, so she has to go out to the post office every single time. So between that and then there is some postage savings, so it's not as much per everything else. The question is, could we use it? Should it come out of the zoning administrator budget? Or which would be for Shelley to use, or do we see other office implications to be able to use this as well? I will speak for elections that we would not be using that because we already have prepaid envelopes for the next several elections because we had to buy all new envelopes just recently because of the address change of the township. We had to get all new ones, and so we purchased a big stock of them because it was cheaper to do in bulk. So
This is certified mail?
it's a postage meter.
No, I mean what you just described. You pre-bought certified mail?
Yes. No, what is it? No, it's not certified mail. Sorry, it's
A postage meter can do any mail.
Right.
And it can do certified. All he's saying is we talked to Colleen, the elections assistant, and asked, would you use a postage meter? And she said, no, because I already have what I need, it's already prepaid. It's not certified, it's just regular mail, but it's not.
Yeah, we've got tons of envelopes here that are all prepaid.
right.
You know, we paid one fee and we got
But
boatloads of
Shelley
envelopes.
particularly wants to use it for certified mail.
Yeah.
Because she's.
And so I think we have money in the budget to do it. The question is, do we want to, if it's being used specifically for,
She did not want it to come out of the zoning. When I talked to her, and she said, well, I don't want it to come out of the zoning administrator budget. I want it to be for everybody to use at the township hall.
So would it make sense to collect some data for a while and see if it's even worth this or not? I mean, I don't know how much certified mail we send out, but, certified mail, I mean, Connie knows, I don't know, what is it, $11 or something?
Probably not, probably more now.
And it's a literally, I don't know, it can't even be 2 miles to the post office. So I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. Maybe if we collect a few months worth of data, maybe it'll say, gosh, you save a ton of money with a meter.
Also depends too on whether you're getting a return receipt or whether you're restricting delivery to the addressee. So there's different tiers of prices, you might say.
yeah. Joanna, do you happen to know, like, what the certified, I know, from the planning commission perspective, which things she has to send out? Do you know off the top of your head? I didn't know. I just thought I'd ask.
I think it might be enforcement
Yeah,
related.
it's enforcement related. It has to do with what you just voted on of complaints. So if somebody does turn out to have blight or is encroachment, then she has to send the letter saying, hey, you need to cut your grass or whatever, or you need to take care of this, and it has to be certified.
Right.
So, and it's like $20 per letter.
Okay. So we should probably be tracking with this new change, how many, if that increases or decreases the amount of letters we get for this and figure out how many letters we've gotten in previous months. So that should be something we should be tracking as well.
Or if we could use it for other mail,
Yeah.
right?
What other mail? Okay. So maybe for this month, we say we're going to pause on the postage meter. We'll collect some data to see how many certified mail that she's sending out. And then also just to see previous months, just to get a kind of a comparison, to look at what other mailings that we do within the township where postage meter might be useful. Okay. Can do that.
Okay.
Sorry.
E, status zoning map correction, adding 425 properties not currently identified.
So, yeah, so this is mine item. A while back, I kind of followed up on Aaron Reed's idea that some of the current zoning map 425s weren't identified on our zoning map. And so I went through and I found that he was correct, and I found the 425 agreements that were associated with those parcels. And then there's also the State Farm. So I don't remember the gathering, but Shelley wanted me to give it to her, so I gave it to her. Now she's not so sure what to do with it, and I think we've just got a general, I think maybe a lack of understanding, and that's why I put this little piece of paper together. My understanding is if it's an error, which it would be, right, that really it's an administrative correction. And you know, it doesn't really, you know, if it's a correction, it doesn't really need anybody. But regardless of what, I'm not an expert in this, but I just would like to see it move forward somehow, whether somebody needs to review it, what the process is. So I got it back from Shelley because it was collecting dust, and I'd be happy to give it to whoever in our township handles correction investigations, whatever the process is.
I think Shelley being relatively new and learning our processes, learning what processes we don't have, and acclimatizing herself to what we do have, I just think she's still, there's a gray area on what she's responsible for and which way she needs to push things. And as far as the zoning map corrections that we've been undergoing for the last year and a half, I think at this point in time, everything, these particular ones, is dealing with 425s, because that's what this is, should go back to the PC. And the PC, if they so decide, revive the zoning map review committee to investigate, research it, and make sure all the documentation clarifies what the changes need to be. We do know that this map here is easily 95% correct. We know it's fluid and that more changes, corrections could possibly be there. You know, it's a work in progress, always will be. So, but I think passing it off right now on to the PC, and if they recommend sending it back to the zoning map review committee for these particular parcels is probably the right direction to go.
So one of the things we have to think about too is what our current ordinances say and what it probably should be. And so Shelley did bring up that our current ordinance and zoning ordinance section 2.2 with the zoning map has very clear language of who's in charge of it. Unfortunately, I don't love it because I think it needs to be changed because it doesn't necessarily make sense. It says location and record keeping, regardless of any published copies of the zoning map of the official zoning map, shall be located in the office of the township clerk and shall be the final authority as all current zoning status of all lands in the township. The record has to be kept by the township clerk of all the changes made or required to be made on the official zoning map. So that's a lot on the clerk. And the clerk is far away from the zoning changes that happen. While we maintain records, I don't want to undermine that. While we maintain records, we're not like in the weeds of all the things that are happening at all times. Joanna, I know you've been in communication a lot on this as well. And so you said in one of your emails, and I'll let you clarify on this as well, that you said when official amendments are approved by the PC/board And prepared for signature, we transmit the supporting documentation to the county GIS, who will record and approve those changes in the map and log an updated zoning map. This process ensures that we'll always have a clear record of what changed between revisions. So we have our posted map over here, which is wonderful, but things happen all the time where people split parcels, people request a zoning change on those things, where those maps can quickly fall out of date, or 425 properties. And so to update that all the time, I mean, we could be printing this a lot, and it's an expensive process. And I love that the PC has been working with the county GIS to keep that up to date, but our ordinances don't reflect those things. And so I would love to see something change there. Go ahead, Joetta, if you want to speak to this as well.
I'll just remind all of us, we went through this for about a year. I want to say zoning map review committee, which Mick led on behalf of the PC, right, to even get to this map that we approved in March. And again, from a layperson's outside perspective, I remember we asked the clerk for the signed zoning map, and we didn't have one, right? And I think that just comes from being the keeper of the records, right? That's where the clerk comes in, as the keeper of the records. Even when you read that from the ordinance, that's my way of reading it. We had Brent Thalen from County GIS come to the Planning Commission meeting, you guys. He annually in March, he gets the data from the assessors to update. I mean, these splits happen every day, right? I mean, that's an exaggeration, but quite often, right? Land splits as an example. He doesn't get the data until every March, and then he's got to make those changes, right? And then a new map will, on county GIS, right? That's not reflected daily on that zoning map, on our current zoning map, right? So what we did, and Mick found this actually on some of our old maps as well, you can see to Liz's left, there's this table that's there too, right? And from now on, when county GIS is given direction from the municipality or from us to change something related to zoning on that map, he would change the base map to ensure all the splits, whatever's happened, right? And keep track of what changes were made on that map, right? So hypothetically, we have 3 parcels potentially that the zoning map review committee is going to look at. If we give direction to county GIS to make a change on that map, he's going to add that to that table and present that back, planning commission to approve, ultimately to the township board for signature again. And then I would think the clerk keeps that record. That's how I would envision it. And I apologize, that was way too long, but so that you could be taken every time a split happens, you're not going to update the map, right? There has to be you just have to do it annually or when a change comes into play. Right. But you're not going to get changes to that base map, that county GIS base map, until he gets everything from every municipality in March related to some items. Sorry, that was way too long. Thanks.
So there's 2, maybe 3 actually different things. There's zoning, right, which is I would argue is the most important part of that map. And then there's splits and combinations and boundary changes, which I won't say aren't important. They're nice to have on there, but they're probably not the main purpose of that map. And then there are corrections or errors. So all I'm talking about right now is the correction. I'm happy to do whatever you guys want to do. I would like to give it to someone. Shelley wanted it when I offered it to, I think there were planning commission members there, and she was there, and she said, give it to me, and I gave it to her. So I just wanted to get it correct, because it's an error, and we shouldn't have errors in our zoning map, so that we know about. Now, there might be some that we don't know about, but these we know about, and so I'll give it to the planning commission chair this evening.
Go ahead.
I think I'm very cautious when we say there are errors. I think the main thing is, I'm again not saying that somebody's homework or that, but I would also say that your planning commission has worked really hard on that map. I know I said it a million times. I suggest bringing it back to the planning commission taken, and the zoning map review committee can take lead on that. And I hope we allow the same type of pressure to tell the city of Marshall to approve, to fix their map at the same time.
Yeah, I think the process of the planning commission makes sense.
Right. Okay. Okay, we'll go on to F, status of the law firm letter to Maida on the city's illegal use of water lines.
I don't know, I think Mick brought this up last month, and maybe you did this month, but I tried to get a hold of Rob today. The letter was sent. He was supposed to follow up with Maida's attorney, Mr. Richard Lindsay. To my knowledge, he hasn't done that yet, but I'll keep bugging him, and Wayne can keep bugging him. We didn't talk about this. I think it's typically a standing report, but we have given the city a modified 425 proposal, which again isn't board approved. You guys haven't even seen it yet. Maybe we should. I guess that's something you can talk about. It has been given to them. We have a meeting on the 13th of August.
Somewhere right in there, yeah.
Yeah, the 13th of August, to try and hit that again. We went through all the changes in the last meeting, and they wanted to talk about water franchise agreements, and we said, well, we want to talk about this agreement before. So, so that's the status there. So I don't know any more about the letter than what I just said. It's been delivered to them, and
Sounds like they have some personnel changes there as well. That, I don't know if that's part of the reason we haven't heard, but yeah, I definitely will help you
And this
getting
is
back to
actually the
Rob.
second letter. I went back and looked. This is actually the second letter that our law firm has sent. The first one was probably more about lack of franchise. This one was very direct. I think you all saw it, and it was direct that, they've done something that we believe is illegal.
And because we didn't get it until the day of the last township meeting, we included it in this packet so that the residents could read over the letter that was sent. So I just wanted to explain, we included that in this packet so that you have access to what we sent Maida in terms of the water franchise agreement.
Okay. Proposal of township ownership of Bear Creek property with management by Bear Creek Commons.
Yeah, so Bear Creek Commons is as we've talked about in the past, is a new entity of different interested parties, of people who want to preserve Bear Creek, including township, city, local people around, the Historic Society and such. And so the proposal on the ground is that they basically said, hey, would the township be interested in having its own park? We don't have our own park. This would be the first park that we have. We would essentially own the property. It would be, we would have it managed by Bear Creek Commons, so they would be in charge of, running it, maintaining it, doing all those things, but it would be, the property would be in the ownership of the township. Some interesting things about that. One is, I know in our survey, which Joanna talked about, one of the things that people brought up was recreational, park and recreational things. And so this would be one of the first opportunities that I could see where we have a chunk of land that could be dedicated to do that purpose. I was like, a little leery at first. I'm like, oh my goodness, what's this going to do to insurance rates? I and my deputy contacted our insurance provider and said, hey, how is this going to impact our insurance? They said it's not going to really impact our insurance at all. It's not going to be any more of a burden to us to do it. Again, I would, the MEDC is very interested in the township, that they're willing to give it to, well, I don't know if they're working on that, what that would look like, but they are waiting to see if the township is receptive to receiving Bear Creek before they make decisions with Bear Creek Commons. So I think that they're like, hey, we're open to it if the township's willing, if they're the municipality. They'd rather give it to us than nonprofit.
Just want to clarify that they are looking for a proposal from the township.
Yeah.
That's what was said by.
Yeah, the Maida's attorney, yeah. So, so that would be a proposal, would be maybe we get the township attorney to write, like, we'd accept it, but we're not we're not paying for it.
What's it cost?
What's it cost? Yeah, and I think that would be worked out. I think Bear Creek Commons, the organization, is securing getting different revenue streams from donations from, like consumers or Ford and stuff like that, to whether that's being used to acquire it or develop it into the park. They're looking at funding streams that way to do it. So it would not be us doing that. Yeah.
So how viable is Bear Creek Commons as an organization?
I think it's already has an IRS, its own IRS tag for as a nonprofit. So I think it is going to be viable. It will be its own entity. There's already from listening to different people, like for example, I was on a meeting where Ford said, well, we're interested in giving you this much money and we'd be interested in doing it continually. So it's not like a one-time gift, but like it would be continually funded. So I think there is some interest from organizations. There's people looking at fundraising opportunities to keep it going. But yeah, they're going to also be looking at getting public input of what does it look like. But we first have to assess the land to figure out what it could be, and then provide hopefully some community input to do that. But the first step would be to get it out of the MEDC's hands and into the township's hands would be, I think, is what would be a proposal.
So just so I understand, so this, what I think I'm hearing is scope is that one potential would be that the township would take ownership of the land that's known as Bear Creek that would go all the way to the river. Is that correct? Or?
Yeah, so in what that parcel actually looks like, what it includes is still being negotiating of how far and how much, because there's like the river and then there's next to the river on the other side of
So
that.
I didn't mean to get into the weeds, and I was just trying, so then what I think I'm hearing is a nonprofit would handle I'll say the management of the land, whatever that looks like, including all the costs. What I heard you say is the insurance company said there's no impact. Was that no impact to us because the Commons would pay for it, or?
In terms of liability.
I can't believe if you've got hundreds of people traveling across your property, that there isn't some financial liability that's associated.
They said it's because it's parks are publicly protected, so that doesn't really affect our liability insurance because it's a public thing, so parks are protected under the law.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's good to know.
Yeah, so that's why.
The only concern I would have is that if this Commons, went belly up, then now we've got this thing, which could result in us having to shut it down or something because you can't fund it, right? So that would be the only concern I'd have, would be you've got ownership, which has certain responsibilities, and then you've got operation costs.
Yeah, I think there's two ways you could look at that, Glenn. I think, one, we give all of our parks millage from the county to grievers. So if something happened that direction, I think we could renegotiate that because we would be outright owning that, and then we could see if that would cover those costs. But then if it was too much of a financial burden, it's a piece of land, and then the township could look at what would that, other uses of that land or something to do it. But I don't know. But, those are, here nor there, so.
So is there a time thing? Because we have to come up with a proposal.
So they're looking first for a motion from us, maybe to send it to the township attorneys. So they want to see, is the township board interested first? And then we'd have like Rob draft something up of this is what our proposal would be, saying that we're not interested in paying or maintaining the cost of that, right? But we will be the owners of that land, allowing, we could have him write up that nice language and then give that to the Bear Creek Commons to be able to present to the MEDC.
So prior to that letter coming from the lawyer, they would need to know more specifics about the land boundaries before writing the letter, before putting together a proposal. Is
Well-
Bear Creek Commons ready to give that information, or?
Well, they've asked for the moon, in terms of everything, they're asking big, and then they're seeing where the MEDC, will land with it. So, I mean, in terms of what they're asking for, like I said, Bear Creek has this land, but then there's east of Bear Creek going to 15 Mile Road, there's that land that Bear Creek Commons is also asking for, and then there's going straight back behind, all the way down, at least to the railroads, maybe whether that's further or not, but down to those railroad tracks, that could be all included in that. But like I said, where that negotiation is at that point, again, the township, from my perspective, we are not going to be covering the cost of that land. That would be between Bear Creek Commons and the MEDC, of whether the MEDC gives it to them, which would be giving it to us, or whether they would associate a cost, which then Bear Creek Commons would have to pay, but then it would be the ownership of the township in terms of that regards.
Guess it'll be kind of interesting to see where a proposal would take us on both sides.
Say that one more time.
It'd be kind of interesting to see where a proposal would take us as a township, and Maida and Metzi and the Bear Creek Commons. See, it's not going to be a next week decision for sure, not the way things are running at the state level. So.
Yeah, I know that they were trying to, like I said, they've been in talks with the MEDC. Like they had talks this week about it. That's where they indicated, hey, we'd like to hear where the township's like leaning on this, in their opinions on it. And then, but they're hoping, Bear Creek Commons' dream would be like September, October, that it would be out of the MEDC's hands. It would be not in their hands anymore, is what they're trying to get that. They're like, we just, there's a lot going on with the MEDC, and, we just want to get it transferred before, the political winds could change, and it could cost, it could turn into a commercial piece of property, and so they're trying to get that before that happens. So.
Who's they?
Bear Creek Commons. Bear Creek Commons wants it to be
But
preserved.
who's they that's telling them that?
That, oh, well, it's, I mean, well, this is coming
I hear a
from,
lot of, I hear Maida saying a lot of things, but I don't always believe what they say.
well, the reality
But
is
At the
there's,
end of the day, I mean, to bulldoze Bear Creek and all the buildings would probably be a pretty significant event.
yeah.
And
I would-
I don't know that they're ready to do that. And that's the other thing I'll just
Maida-
note is that, I think when Jim Durian was here, he indicated that, the buildings are gonna need quite a bit of funding to
they're being
bring
assessed.
them up, to being open to the public or whatever you're gonna use them for, so.
It's the they in that as well, like why is the issue? It's political wins, you get administration changes come November. And so people who have been previously receptive to those monies versus there's a lot of trying to claw back money. And so at that point, you say, oh, people would have an uproar, not from the state, not from the state's perspective. They'd be happy to see it turn into commercial property where they got their monies back on that. So
Again, who's they, right? So we don't need to argue about it here. At the end of the day,
the legislature is the they in that.
right, I don't
to
think
get
the
their money back.
legislature of Michigan is going to want to bulldoze Bear Creek in its current state, but
If they
we don't
see-
need to argue
If
about
they
it.
see financial potential, like essentially,
I think they see political problems right now with what they have done to the state and what they are doing or to the townships and rural communities. And I don't think it's a very popular idea to bulldoze things right now, but that's
Okay.
just my opinion.
okay.
Well, this is a big decision,
Yeah.
and I think there's some more information we need.
Well, and I would say, I don't think our lawyers are gonna write a proposal if they don't think it's a good idea too. Just looking at the concept would probably be a good start, and
I think having them look at it,
pitfalls and obviously the benefits too, but
Well, it would be them drafting a proposal.
but they're not gonna draft a proposal if they think it's a terrible idea.
Can you tell me why it's a terrible idea?
No, I just saying, if they assessed it and said it was a terrible idea for us to own land and be reliant on a nonprofit to
fund it.
if they said, you're not very smart if you do this, then probably it wouldn't get to the proposal stage. So I'm just suggesting that they evaluate that portion before we jump into a proposal.
I don't know. I think part of me, I'm looking at residents said that they wanted a park. This is our opportunity to do it. It may be not again that we get an opportunity like this. I hear the like, oh, we should wait. This isn't the first month that I've talked about Bear Creek Commons and Bear Creek potentially being in the township. I've mentioned it since May. So I just, to me, I'm like,
I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, let's ask the lawyers if this is a smart idea.
And if they
Investigate it, and
and
if they say
think it's
yes,
go with the proposal.
go with the proposal.
would we have a special meeting to do it? Just because I think there's timelines like riding on whether this is a viable thing or not, so that's what I'm saying is it may be off the table for the township to be able to own.
Well, I think that we could do it tonight. We could have the attorneys look at it. And if it was, we could have an emotion that if the attorneys thought it was a good idea for us to go forward, we could go ahead.
So we're actually asking the attorneys to do the fact-finding mission to determine if we should actually go forward with the proposal.
There's things that they know that we don't know,
Exactly.
right?
And, there's information here, just property
Yeah.
issues that we should know and that hopefully the lawyers will ask about prior to any proposal being submitted, because all that would have to be included in the thought process to create that proposal.
Right.
And we don't have that information right now, so.
So am I hearing, essentially so I'll start. I will make the motion for the attorneys to look into and determine if it is good for the township to be the owners of Bear Creek, the land that is known as Bear Creek, with having it to be managed by Bear Creek Commons. And if the lawyers feel that it is good, then we will submit a proposal. Then that proposal will be sent, yeah.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
You want to restate that proposal?
Yeah. It's a long one. Okay. Okay. The motion is to allow the attorneys to determine if it is good for the township to be owners of the land which is known as Bear Creek and for it to be managed by Bear Creek Commons. If they think it is good, they will send a proposal.
Could I just suggest replace the word good with viable?
Viable, yes. You can change it to be viable. Okay.
Still support it.
You still support it? Okay.
All right.
Okay. The roll call, I will vote yes. Supervisor Bossert?
Yes.
Trustee Markounis?
Yes.
Treasurer Kowalski?
Yes.
Trustee Woods?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Okay.
Okay.
Referrals, none.
Number 10 is referrals. We have none. Number 11 is old unfinished business. Is there a motion to approve the agenda items, and if you want to vote on anything separately?
There's just the two items, right?
Yeah, they're just those, just items under 11, yeah.
So I guess I would recommend we separate them.
Okay. Okay. Cemetery update. The inspection was completed. And basically we found, so originally there was a suggestion for it to be torn down. We had, if you remember, the board approved to have our building inspector go out and inspect the building to see, is it worthwhile to repair it? Like, what's the actual condition of the building? He came back with basically and reported saying that actually the structure of the building is to code. It's good. It's a good foundation. It's not like in a bad way, except for the roof, the spacing of the roof joist would need to be changed, and then a new roof would need to be put on there, as well as there'd be some like minor foundation, like tucking and stuff like that. In his he goes, in his opinion, he's like, oh, that would be way cheaper than in his opinion, than to tear it down and have it hauled off. And so it would be the request of the board, would you be interested in us putting out an RFP to get proposals to do the work, to get some quotes to do the work so that we could have that structure repaired in the cemetery?
I would make a motion that we, I guess, who's the we? Who's going to do the RFPs?
Clerk's office.
The clerk's office.
Put together something and have it put in the paper probably.
So I would make a motion, if we need it, I would make a motion that we get quotes for repairing the cemetery building.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
The only question would be, we just have to think about, I think, we could talk about this in amendments next month, but like where we want to, once we see quotes, where we're going to get that money from to do it. We have lots of money in contingency, so I'm not super worried. But just making a note that the current budget for cemetery does not maybe include that cost.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. We'll go for a roll call vote.
Supervisor Bossard,
Yes.
Trustee Markounis,
Yes.
Treasurer Kowalski,
Yes.
Trustee Woods,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Motion is approved.
Okay, we'll go to item B under 11, it's expansion of the township
Yep.
email users.
Yep, so we have in the packet, as we discussed in May, we looked into who gets township emails and who doesn't. Like, what is our policy on that? And we realized it's like, we don't necessarily have good, it's in here. Goodness, if I have it somewhere. We don't have good, we didn't have good policies on that in general. Didn't seem to have very clear reasons why certain people had it and other people didn't. At the same time, there was some issues that were happening within the township of spoofing. Spoofing is basically where a hacker or someone like that, they don't hack into someone's email, but they make an email that looks like somebody else's email. So that's happened to a couple township or people on boards where we had Joanna Johnson had a spoofed email where it looked like it came from her, and a resident came in and said, "Hey, why do I have this bill from Joanna that says I need to pay this?" And Joanna's like, "That's not from me. Don't pay it." And I will tell you, it was like the email itself had our logo on it. It looked like it. So it's one of those things when we have people who are a part of the township using their personal emails, as it becomes difficult to be able to say, yes, this is Joanna's email, or no, this isn't Joanna's email from that. It also helps out in terms of greater cyber security of us being hacked. So if we're using all township emails for township business, it helps protect us in that way because we have some security, whereas people using their own personal emails may not have those same protections on their email account. So it allows us that way as well. It also is easier and faster to do FOIA requests. If everybody's using their township emails for communications, it becomes a lot easier and less expensive for Greg and our lawyers to be able to do it, bringing down costs for FOIA requests that come in, but in a faster way, it allows us to respond to them because Greg, who does like a lot of our IT, he can pull all that information directly from those accounts. So in here, there is a cost that you can see of what our current email cost license is. We pay right now $1,788. The cost, we calculated who are all the people that would need to, like including our fire chief who does not have a township email, which I think is surprising. But all the different people, there's a list of those people. All the people who are on boards, whether it be the planning commission, whether it be the fire board, would have a township email. There's two different types of emails. There's the more expensive one that includes SharePoint and stuff. We're not suggesting that all those people would have those, but they would at least have a township email. So there would be an additional of $720 a year annual cost. An initial setup fee of $500 this time, but then it would have, so that would have a cost of, I think, is it total $3,008 for this year? And then that cost would go down for next year because we wouldn't have that $500 IT upfront costs of setting this all up for all of the people. So that is a recommendation that one, I see some benefit just because already within the last 3 months, I've seen multiple spoofed emails coming from with, that people, I didn't think it could happen in such a small township, but it's happened multiple times.
What does the spoofing have to do with the type of email?
Great. So if we have, so it would be like Joanna@marshall.org. What happens is when someone spoofs an email, they change.
I know what spoofing is. I'm asking you, what difference does it make whether I'm using my Google account or I'm using a township? What difference?
It helps someone to be able to identify whether it is from the township or not. So when someone's using SBC Global, I don't know if that is their home email or if the hacker's just using SBC Global. Because we don't have all of our township, like residents can't go up on there and see everybody's personal email on our website with all that information. And nor do I really want to be giving personal emails of all of our of our people on our boards.
I think most of the people that have been using their own email have a separate one from their personal account. You have an assessor, right, who we pay a full fee for a full Office 365, who uses his own email. He does not use the one that we purchased for him. So
I think that would be, again, we'd make it a policy that they have, we want people to use it. And if people don't want to use it, then, I mean, at the end of the day,
you missed my point, I think. My point was that you can have a separate email just for your planning commission or your fire board or your fire marshal. That's not your personal email. That's all I was saying.
yeah, but it's still not covered under the protections of the township. So so with what we pay with our IT company to be able to make sure it's a secure email server and protecting that from outside threats. So like someone using it, we don't have the ability.
So did that protect anybody from the spoofing that we saw?
In this case, the spoofing, what it would have done.
Just look at it and you can tell it's a spoofed email, right? So I get an email from Dave that looks a little odd. I look at who sent it and I know that's not him, right? So if just as an example, I don't really care one way or another, except that we do need to enforce it. If we're gonna do this, we need to enforce it. I don't see the benefit in a FOIA personally, but at the end of the day, if I have Marshall Township Fire Chief at google.com and that's what I'm going to use and I put it on the web page, people know what it is, right? So
But that's
pretty
not how
simple.
it's done though. I'm just saying that's not.
Well, it is done in some cases. I think the planning commission, maybe I'm wrong. I thought the planning commission had their emails on there, but.
They do. Yeah, I think you're right that they may do. But I'm just saying, in general, it doesn't protect us from hackers. It doesn't protect us from.
This doesn't protect you from hackers.
Well, it allows us to make sure that the server that we're using, all of it's under the management of our township IT security. So it guarantees that what we purchase for security within our township is applied to all of the people that are using it. I mean.
My last comment really is I'm getting concerned that we keep adding costs, operating costs. We've been adding a lot of costs and at the end of the day, we're going to ultimately eat up all of our money. So we have to be somewhat careful when we're adding costs that we're doing it for a good reason.
Okay. Well, I'll make the motion. I will make the motion to approve. Let's see. Right. to approve the expansion of the township email users with a cost of, for this year, of $3,008. By the way, it will be, it is something within our budget. I've looked at the budget. We have over $8,000 budgeted for IT, and I don't see us using all of that in that sense, so it's not outside of the budget that's already there. But sorry. My approval is to expand the township email users to include all of those that's mentioned in the packet here for this year of a cost of $3,008.
Could you replay that one more time?
My motion is to expand to expand the proposed email users as proposed in this packet on this here at a cost to the township of $3,008. So it would provide all of these people to be able to have township emails with marshalltownship.org.
So my question will be is how do we incorporate within the motion our unsaid mandatory use of this email?
We can include that. We could say, and require all employee positions that would receive an email address to use it for township business. To expand the email.
And are they interchangeable? Because you know how like members change, like the cost of it's not gonna cost more and okay.
Nope, to change over, it would just be, we'd be switching the names. Greg, we wouldn't be adding a new email account. It would be replacing one with another, which doesn't have a cost.
I was gonna ask that, yeah.
I mean, there may be like, if we have like a whole board switch, it may be, like an hour of his time or something to do. Yeah.
I'll second that motion. Is there any more discussion?
I just like the idea of the consistency of everybody that works for and in support of the township. They have the same email addresses, system set up. So I just think it aids, it helps the residents and helps us and for tracking and just overall management of the system.
Yeah.
Okay, no more discussion. We'll go roll call vote.
Treasurer Kowalski,
No.
trustee Markounis,
Yes.
trustee Woods.
Yes?
I'll vote yes. Supervisor Bossard.
Yes.
Okay, motion is approved.
Okay, we'll move on to the new business. And is there any one thing that people want to take out for separate voting, or do you want to just discuss them and then we can vote on them together?
I guess B and C I would ask to pull out.
Okay,
Okay.
Do we, maybe D as well?
okay. So I'll go through the checks issued that's attached. I don't know if anybody has any questions on that.
Yeah, so I have a few questions. So do we have two copiers in the township?
No, we have one.
I'm seeing a bill from US Bank for two separate units by serial number. One for $230 and one for $287.
Which check number is that?
I don't know. It's the bill that we got. It's due 7/20/2026. So it's these are in the checks. I don't break that. Maybe I should have written the check
Yeah,
number.
it would have been helpful. So these are for.
I look at the bills.
I know, but this is from.
Sign the check.
Yeah. Yeah, so some of those things could be,
The question's the same. Do we have one or two copiers?
do we have one at the,
Do you mind if I take a look at that, Glenn?
I just was wondering if we had one at one of the fire stations.
What do you see?
I didn't know. It looked like one of them, we had quite a bit of overage, which I assume was here.
yeah.
And the other one, we didn't quite use our,
I can at least speak to one thing. I know the copying machine, we pay for the company, when we go to print every sheet, there's a price of use on the machine, which is separate than the price of paper. So we have a paper cost, I know, and we also have a price for use.
it's all on that bill.
If you look at the top here, it'll say the equipment ID is 1772110. And on the back is the same equipment ID, 1772210. I think the serial number, because it
Did we-
talk about, let's see, color. I think it might be a difference between,
Whether we're doing color prints or we're doing,
But, and we don't have to answer it. It was a question I had because I was only aware of one and maybe it's one copier and two different services or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
I know it's a lease equipment, so I'd have to look.
double check them.
The fire chief isn't here tonight, but I just had a question. We paid $5,000 for fire hose testing. I don't know if it's mandatory or not. That was my question because I think we could probably test our fire hoses ourselves if we.
He wrote a note on that. That's, I guess, a yearly testing that they do the ladders and the.
Is it required by
I think
someone?
it's probably by our insurance company,
Oh,
and it's being tested.
Yeah.
so I can follow up with Jay on that, but.
Anything with fire is very expensive.
Well, yeah, and what I'm finding out is that sometimes it's required and sometimes it isn't. And we probably just have to be careful, but, and then the Chapman, we paid $67,000 for our insurance. Do we know if did that go up significantly or not?
It did go up, partly because we have an additional fire truck that we are getting. And so there will be a time where we are insuring an additional fire truck until we sell the one that it is going to be replacing. And so I know that is part of the increase in cost there. I'm trying to remember, Liz, was there another thing?
I think it was just, there was a slight increase for the board, but it's how everything goes up just slightly. He said there was a small increase for that, but the major increase that is on that is because of the fire truck.
And it's a new fire truck, so replacing a new fire truck is more expensive from an insurance perspective than an older fire truck.
The Office 360, which I think is, it used to be the old standard printing, but I'm not sure of that. But I had made the suggestion before, and I think I actually opened up the Staples business account so we could buy Shelley's furniture. But office supplies are significantly cheaper if we go through the Staples business account rather than this Office 360. So we could probably cut our costs there at least in half.
We can look into that for sure. I think, there's been some times where we compared prices at different things, like, for example, with Shelley's equipment, like she went with Staples at the time because we got that, but Wayfair was cheaper. There's, just some other things.
Wayfair was junk. I mean, it was absolute junk.
I mean, I don't know.
Just to give you an idea, I mean, we
Okay.
can buy 144 binder clips that that we're buying at $1 for 12 pieces. We can buy 144 of them for $7. And we can, sheet protectors, whatever we use 100 sheet protectors for, we can buy, which we paid $46, we can buy 200 of them for $30. So
We'll look into it. I mean, we're not buying, I could, looking at the bills in general of how much money we've spent on office supplies, like I think the last month we spent $80 total. And it's not a ton of money, but I mean, we can look at it,
So we had, this was fire software. So again, it's a Chief Riggs, but we paid $5,500 for something to do with software. I don't know if that's an ongoing cost. But again, I guess that's for Chief Riggs. So Marshall, Michigan Township Association, and Liz, you and I briefly talked about this. We pay $3,800. Do we know what we're getting?
That's just for the
It's just
membership. We did
membership.
not renew, they have like a package deal for the online trainings for the webinars,
Right.
which was another,
$1,900.
yeah, almost $2,000. And I calculated it out and it was like, we'd have to do like 74 webinars to make it worth paying, because they cost like $10, $15, and it's like, it's not worth how many, people are actually doing webinars. So we did not renew that, but that is just to have the membership to get legal counsel and access to the, information that they have.
Right.
I think we can do it cheaper by doing, we don't want to discourage people from doing webinars, but it's cheaper for us to pay for it as they come ad hoc.
Those are all the questions I had.
Okay, anybody else? And we'll move to item E, the use of state public revenue sharing, 2365. I think probably ought to wait for the email from Steve.
Yeah, I think it's just saying that we will use it, and I think we can, it doesn't say that, but we should look into it, and I agree, we can wait for him to
Right.
tell us how to do it. But yeah, that's.
We might want to, again, I saw quite a bit of chatter on the MTA site. We might want to explore this a little bit because I guess I'm not sure why we couldn't just use that for the fee we pay to the sheriff today.
Yeah, it might be able to be used.
That was my thought, so, because it is headed going towards
Right. Enforcement. Yeah.
enforcement.
So.
So we're tabling that one then, or?
Sure. I mean, do you want us to just come up, we could, I think one, it's a new, we attached it here as well, the Department of Treasury's, thing. We can, would you want it to be, ask our lawyers to make sure we can use it in those ways? Or I'm sure that we're going to have to keep some sort of accounting on it from a state perspective to make sure we've used it properly.
The state and our CPA needs, so it has to be a board approved of like, this is what the money is going to, so that we have a, motion or approval of how we're gonna spend that. So,
I guess we can table it, I guess.
Okay.
This is something that sounds like it's new. And a lot of townships are grappling with it. So it may be something, we just need to wait, be patient and see how it, or put the message back to whoever sent this to us and say, hey, you need some help understanding it.
Well, I think Sheriff Hinckley mentioned that he's gonna send out a letter to everybody,
Right.
and I think we could wait until that comes out.
Right. He also said that, you could use it for the purposes that I mentioned, but he wasn't sure, right? So there's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have a vote on new business of A, which is checks issued, and E, the use of tabling that, do we have a motion to table that?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to table.
Okay,
Second?
So Dave, just on F, we'll still be able to bring some
yeah,
other man, okay.
I just thought we'd go through these other things and then we'd go to that.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the checks issued and tabling E, the use of state funds, okay. Is there a second?
Yep, Mick did it.
Okay.
Yep.
So we'll have a roll call vote on those two things.
Okay. Sorry. Treasurer Kowalski,
Yes.
Trustee Woods,
Yes.
I'll vote yes. Supervisor Bassett,
Yes,
Trustee Markounis.
Yes.
Okay. And, yep,
okay. And now we'll go to B, the closure of the township office on August 4th and November 3rd.
yep. Those are the day of elections. And so the office cannot be open because in that room over there next to us, it is where we do the AV counting board. So we have all the mail-in ballots that need to be counted. And so while we can have some things going on in there, we have traditionally, by the way, have not had our offices open.
Our
Yep.
office manager is also an election worker, so he would not be available to.
As approved by the election committee on July 6th.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve closure of the township offices on August 4th and November 3rd?
So moved.
I'll second.
And we have support.
Okay,
So is there discussion?
discussion?
Yes.
So one of my questions, and I think Wayne and I talked about this, so we had, at the beginning of the year and still on our webpage, we have Marshall Township office closings for 2026. And these two dates are not on there. So my question is, we're closing days that Carl would normally work. So we're essentially creating two more holidays for him.
It sounds like he's working election though.
He is working election.
So you get paid for both.
Okay.
I guess that's my question is, do we really need to pay him for both?
You do because the paying is different for election workers. There's laws about paying election workers, and especially when it comes to tax. So that we would not be able to do, and I think yeah, there's a whole bunch of other election laws here.
Well, we're
You're starting
paying
to get
him,
into it.
in fact, we're paying him much more than the election workers, right? We are paying him.
Yeah, but it's irrelevant in the sense of like, there's election laws of like when it comes to, like, I think in our MTA magazine that came out that we just got, I think today or yesterday or something, it has a whole bunch of what those laws are around election pay. Like that is a very different, different rules that come into play there.
Including using office, like people who are already office staff as election workers and how you can pay them and not pay them and what is taxable, what's not taxable.
So can he, as an employee on that day, can he just work the election?
That's something we probably, he can work it, but how he gets paid is something we need to look into more.
Because there's specific laws about election paying. It's just very complicated.
Yeah, so that was the only comment. And the only other thing is that we should add that to our list of
But it
office
would
closings.
be, Shelley would have those days off as well. And she is not an elections worker at this time. So that's just a note as well. Thank you, Joy.
Why would she have those days off?
Because she couldn't conduct business with the election happening. The office would be closed.
And people couldn't come see her because they'd have to walk through the
Yeah.
room.
Go to the side door?
I'm just saying, traditionally,
Close this door and go in through the side door outside.
I would just say traditionally, and how I've seen it in, other places, they close their offices because of elections. In order to also support people going out to vote. Yeah, like,
Security.
And you don't want to,
Yeah.
security.
Just lock her in the office. Okay, understand.
Okay, so we have a motion.
yeah, by Woods, supported by Martinez to close offices. So, trustee Woods,
Yes.
I'll vote yes. Supervisor Bossard,
Yes.
trustee Martinez,
Yes.
treasurer Kowalski.
Yes. Can we add them to our list of closings?
Yes, we will post them on the website for sure. I'll make sure that happens.
Okay, now we'll go to D, renewal of membership with Choose Marshall.
Should we do C first?
Oh, C, yep.
Yeah. Additional security cameras for fire station. So that's just to let you know, we had, and it would have been in the fire chief's report, but the back doors to Fire Station 1 over here were crashed into. And we don't have any security cameras on that side of the building. And it was so much damage that it broke all the way up to the glass on the doors on that. And so we filed a police report, but we don't have any cameras that we can see that have captured that to be able to really go any further with that. The cost is for that door to be replaced is about $4,000. Our deductible from our insurance is going to be $1,000. So we have already initiated filing a claim to get those doors to be replaced. But it brings up the problem, like this happens. And we do have cameras in this building simply because we have laws that require us to have cameras for elections, for safe and secure elections. But the question came up is, would it be a good use of funds to be able to have security cameras at the fire board, like to be able on that backside so that it may prevent that from happening in the future, but it also would give us documentation like when the snow plows hit our doors to be able to have evidence of that we could use to be like, no, you need to pay for these types of things.
Was it the same door that had the snowplow crease in it? Or?
No, these were the back doors, so I don't, like I said, the damage was quite bad. Someone had to be going pretty fast to do it. And then the question is, if we do it for Fire Station 1, do we also do the security cameras for Fire Station 2? So that I'm just presenting evidence here. The question is that something we want to look into and see what the cost would be?
I think we should look into it. I'll move that we look into that because actually that $4,000 for that door is really not too bad for what those doors cost.
Yeah.
I'll second.
So is there any discussion?
So what's the motion then? The agenda items addition of, so we're just tabling for,
Yeah, maybe we just table it and to get more information about how much it would cost. So then we don't need to have it,
Okay, well then I'll
Yeah.
take my motion back.
you take it back. Okay,
Table the,
sounds good. Yeah,
so we need to vote on tabling it.
okay,
I also need a second on it.
okay.
second.
Okay. I will vote, roll call?
Yep, roll
Okay.
call.
I will vote yes. Supervisor Bossert?
Yes.
Trustee Markounis?
Yes.
Treasurer Kowalski?
Yes.
Trustee Woods?
Yes,
Okay, motion carries.
Okay, then we'll go renewal of membership with Choose Marshall.
So last year, we chose to renew it. And we said, let's see, the argument was, let's see what benefits we get from being a member of Choose Marshall. And so we're now at a year and the bill has come to say, hey, you need to renew with us. So the question is, do we feel that the township has had a benefit to renew our membership with MEDA, essentially, or Choose Marshall, to be a part of that chamber? How much do we pay?
I think it's like 235 or somewhere around there.
$235 annually. Um,
no price increase.
I'm not sure what it was previously.
That sounds about right for last year,
It sounded about that as well,
if I remember.
in that ballpark. I personally have not seen a whole benefit of what we've gained by being on it, but I'm curious if other people, what benefit each person thinks that we gain from being on that. I guess the one,
I don't know if Jeff used to go to these meetings, but I think that was in your place, wasn't it, Dave? These weekly secret meetings that Maida had. I think Jeff used to go, I think they were on Wednesdays or something. I don't know if that was, if you had to be a member or if
You'd
you.
probably have to be a member.
yeah. And I know like recently, Jim Durian had been, like trying to come here and talk more and, took us to the mega site to take a look at things and stuff like that, but they just let him go. So, it's like the only contact from that, like that was making an effort is no longer there.
It's kind of related, but when we were talking to the city, you might recall that the city is encouraging MEDA to work with the township to include us in their organization. And I think we stated pretty clearly, we're not signing any NDA. At least this board is not signing any NDA. So I think the city understands that. The city, when you look at its Marshall Area Economic Development Alliance, so I think they're wanting the township to be part of it. So I think maybe they're whispering in Maida's ear to change some of their rules. There's a fiduciary responsibility. We can't necessarily be, blabbing economic development information all over the place. But at the same time, we're not interested in signing non-disclosures. So
I guess I'm open to it if, once I see that happens first. I don't know if I'm
yeah,
by a leap of faith.
I'm not aware of anything that I've taken advantage of that would require membership.
My thought process a year ago was mainly to keep the lines of communication open. Now, have they been open enough for us to continue another year at this time? So up until the last couple of months, no. However, the wind shifted just a little bit, but the guy sailing the boat is evidently gone now. So what's the perspective from the MEDA board and even the city? Because they abetted, and they abided by all the decisions and the impacts. Accountability is at the MEDA board and further to the city and even the city manager. So
What does the membership, what's it supposed to benefit us with? You know how they market why you should be a member? I guess too, can anybody?
I can get it from the,
Oh.
give me 1 minute and I'll get the paperwork that says what it provides me.
Just so we can.
Yeah, no,
See
see, if we're,
if-
it's a good question. Like, off the top of my head, I'm like, I just don't know what we've benefited.
Oh, that's why, yeah.
I think just thinking back in the old terminology, Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
Which is what it used to be.
Right.
And every business type organization was a member of the Chamber of Commerce and had access to what was going on. Having an organization entity like MEDA changed the rules of the ballgame.
Yeah.
And it's no longer a Chamber of Commerce in the old construction. It's something brand new with restrictions.
There's no accountability.
No, doesn't seem like it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like Glenn was saying, the rules, like, they don't help us, let's say Glenn was on that board and had, well, you must sign an NDA. Well, he can't share that really with the rest of the board and how it currently functions. Unless given express permission, like he'd have to ask permission for every single thing to tell the public. And we're a public body. Like, I don't feel comfortable with that.
I wonder, so maybe the two are separate too. I don't really know. Like, I don't know if the casino is a member of MEDA, but I think the chair used to be from the casino. So I don't know if they're, if you have to be a member to be on the board, if we can eventually convince them that we shouldn't have to sign NDAs or not. I don't know.
I'm more willing to wait until they can prove why we should be by showing that they're changed rather than,
What's the negative of not renewing it? Maybe to look at it the other way. Is there a repercussion of some sort?
Yeah, I'm assuming you can just.
We could sign up
Rejoin.
later.
we can sign up later. That's my thought is we say no now, and if we feel differently, then.
Is it prorated?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Well, if you don't sign up now, maybe they'll come back with something.
Okay, what does it say, Liz? Here we go.
Wow.
You asked the question.
You want me to read it all? No.
Just find the appropriate.
Find the
That's
bullet.
what I'm looking for.
Yes, read it.
Roger, you want to?
You want me to read it all? Really? Because I can.
Yes, go ahead and do it. Do it.
All right. Dear Choose Marshall Chamber member, it's time to renew your Marshall Chamber membership and continue your partnership in our beautiful community. There's an exclamation point there. Thank you for your past support and ongoing engagement. Your renewal is vital to the Chamber services provided through MEDA Choose Marshall. We remain dedicated to actively promoting our area, attracting new businesses, and helping your organization flourish. As a valued member, you have access to excellent resources designed for growth. This includes regular networking events, insightful educational workshops, and exclusive funding opportunities like our business acceleration and beautification grants. Your investments also allow us to champion the programs that drive our local economy. Choose Marshall keeps our community lively through engaging tourism events, impactful shop local initiatives, and the popular Marshall Bucks program. Furthermore, we provide enhanced visibility for your business through the Marshall Welcome Center, our weekly e-newsletters, active social media pages, and choosemarshall.com. Please review the invoice. Yeah, so I don't really, from that, I wouldn't say we benefit, but maybe you all know better than I do.
I'm gonna set the motion, or does someone else want to do it? I'll let someone else do it. Okay, I'll
I
do it.
move that we wait, or decline or wait, I don't know. I move that we do not renew our membership with Choose Marshall at this time.
Second.
Ready for roll call?
Yep.
Discussion?
Well, is there any other discussion? I don't see any.
Okay. Supervisor Bassett?
Yes.
Christina Markounis?
Yes.
Treasurer Kowalski?
Yes.
Trustee Woods?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. So we are not renewing our Choose Marshall membership.
Okay. And now for F. Any other matters that may be properly brought before the board?
The hour is getting late. I would like to bring up, we do, by contract, we have to have a office manager performance review. I think it's within 60 days of the contract date. So I think that would mean the board would have to conduct that at our August meeting. And I think generally, unless office manager wanted it in closed session, it would be an open session. Just because I put this little evaluation sheet together using AI, I will admit it. And, and his position description. So, the thought process I had, and hate to table it because we're going to have to do something in August, but was that, each board member could rate the different areas, and then ultimately those would be compiled into a rating for each of the areas and then an overall rating. This can get complicated and you can weight different areas and so on and so forth. I'd suggest maybe for the first time around, since I think this is the first time around, I guess Dave, you'd know better than I would, but maybe we try to keep it as simple as possible and so anyways, we have to do something. I think we have to do something in August, so that would be my suggestion. It would be something like what I sent to the board. It could be somebody else's idea as well, but the areas where I think tax collection, revenues receiving, permit administration, clerk support, office administration, and so on. So came right off of the job description.
I think that makes sense to have each person kind of fill it out and we can, like Glenn said, like we looked into it as well, it has to be in a public, the review process happens in a public statement unless the employee, chooses to say, no, I want it to be done in a closed session. So, or we could have a discussion on it. The question, do we like Glenn's form? Do we need to modify Glenn's form at all? Yep.
I think I need to look through my email. 'Cause
Yeah.
I didn't
Okay.
see it, so.
Yeah. Did you, yeah.
I think that, I just barely glanced at it too right before the meeting, but each person wants to use that to determine, the review, to help in their review, their own personal review, they could. But what is your thought process on everybody filling one of those out? What then?
Again, there's options, but typically you could do a mathematical average type of thing. And then if there are areas, I think it leaves room for areas that you can obviously say, hey, these are areas you're really doing well in, and, here's some areas that we'd like.
So you're looking at getting them filled out, tabulating the scores, and then coming back with
Right.
overall.
We did this when I was on the school board for the superintendent, which is different because superintendent ran the school system. But at the end of the day, you have to have some way to do it. Dave, I don't know how it's been done or if it's been done in the past, so.
I think it was, we didn't have a board thing, and that was, we voted on the board doing evaluation instead of, I think it was the clerk I think the clerk did it before.
And I have, like Jeff had done an evaluation before he left on Carl. And so, I have that as well. Jeff had given that to me before he had left as well. But we could, go ahead.
Could you send that to us so we?
What, the form or whatever?
The form.
Yeah, I can send that one as well. I can.
Not one that's filled out, just a.
Yeah, I was like, I'll see if I can find the blank copy. I was like,
White out here like that.
what did Jeff say? No,
No,
but no, I think I think what Glenn's saying feels right to me is we all fill it out. We have different perspectives from different angles. I think compiling it, I think at some point, I think there might be a weighting, but we can discuss that maybe at the next meeting of this category seems overweighted.
Right.
We can do it. And then my guess is we probably would do that also for the zoning administrator at some point as well. So if we have it for one employee, we'd have this for another. Would we then have once we get whatever those results are, since I'm over Carl, I'd then have a sit down with him and talk through what the board thought on each one of those to discuss those on a one-to-one conversation with him about areas for improvement. And maybe even, I would love to see goal setting in there too, but, because that would be, I think, I just think that's, it's not just retroactive, but this is what I hope to do in the next year. So, I don't know. I don't know if other people feel that too.
So we fill those out and bring them to the meeting, or they need to be turned in ahead?
I would think turned in ahead. So
Right.
that they can be compiled, that needs to be in August to review, right?
Yeah. So then so I will send out, okay, so that the only trouble is if you want to do Glenn's, you want to use the one that Jeff used, or, that would be the only question. It doesn't matter to me. I can't remember Jeff's off the top of my head, and I didn't, Glenn.
Was it a rating type?
It was like, I think it had exceeds, one of those type things similar. But we could,
Satisfactory exceed.
yeah, something like that, I think. But yeah, we could mail that out. You could fill out
We fill out both of them.
and then we can decide which one we like. Send them both to us, to the deputy clerk, because she compiles the packets. She's in the office at that time. So when we ask for board member agenda items, if you could send in your ratings, and it could be a picture. You just take a little picture, send it via email, or you could bring it in. If you want to bring it in, you don't have to do the whole technology thing. And we will put that together in the ratings.
Can you fill it out online?
We could create.
No.
Now that we purchased, it's in the bills, check, Adobe Professional, which does allow to create PDF forms. And so if that is something you would like, I could create it as a.
I
PDF form and
do not want to create any extra work.
No, I mean, we can do it. We'll put
It's
together.
2026, we gotta start moving
We
towards
could just-
Yes.
the-
But
eventually.
Since the time is short, though, I mean, you've already got your hands
I know, an
full.
election and-
Yeah.
Maybe,
Audit, what?
maybe paper for this
It's
time.
after 10 o'clock. You don't know what I'm going to throw out.
So
there.
let's, okay, so with that, let's do this. We'll fill it out, we'll combine it, compile it, but also provide the originals. I don't want people to be like, well, mine, like, you can see everybody's and the compiled. We'll include that in the packet. And then, we'll have that discussion at the August meeting.
Do we sign it or with our names or anonymous?
Well, we are not anonymous.
I think we should put our names on.
I think so. I think so too. Because if we
Right.
have questions, we can come back to that.
Right. So is there anything else?
So I'm just gonna mention these, not talk about them, but there's somewhat of an issue with tornado siren that was near Glen Eden or Eden Glen or whatever. I don't fully understand it. I've pushed, Jay came to me and goes, it's like, this isn't me. He handed it to me. I just pushed back a little bit with MDO. MDOT is the one requesting it. I assume because the road right away changed and they don't want our siren on their land or something. I really don't know. So I just sent a note back to Greg and said, look, you guys need to be clear about what you want. And Jay isn't in charge of our sirens. I don't know who is, but
So.
it's not Jay. And-
So our management, we have a management company for our sirens that like maintain them. They may have some information on
They're
that.
the ones we have to go through.
Shelley, I don't know if you saw, Shelley did send an email, because she had talked to MDOT and stuff, and she sent 2 contacts with West Shore
Right,
that will help us figure out what to do.
right. For a fee, right? So we paid them $2,600 to inspect and preventative maintenance.
They charge a fee to figure out where the siren needs to go.
Yeah.
That's the maintenance, but I don't know. if-
And then there's all these things. And so what I've said to, personally, just one board member, I've said to MDOT is, seems like it's your problem, not ours. And it seems like whatever we do, you should pay for it. So anyway, I didn't mean that is something that's bubbling up. I wanted to mention Paychecks, and Capital Group is the IRA company. I think they're garbage. I've talked to Liz and Wayne. I think we need to make a change there. And then the final thing I had was ultimately, I'd really like to see us work towards a 5-year road plan. I know we won't have all the money that we'd like to have for roads, but if we could start to work towards a plan, identifying, priorities where we can, I would suggest that. So that's all I had.
With the Paychecks and Capital Group, I know that was done by ordinance.
Yeah, I think actually both are.
It's weird, it's not a resolution. It was done by ordinance.
The paychecks might be a resolution, but I know I'm gonna give you a copy of since our retirement,
Right.
is an ordinance of using,
Capital.
it's American funds.
Ordinance or a resolution?
No, it's
It's
an
an ordinance, which is
published
weird.
in a newspaper at the
They're
time.
not a very good company.
Both of those changes, and I'll be the first to say, it is coming, our payroll provider is Paychecks. It is absolutely horrible to use, and anybody that's been around the township recently will have heard me complaining about it. And I am going to be looking into using a different provider, but it'll be coming to the board for both changing the retirement ordinance and the Paychecks, the payroll
We
provider.
should probably have the lawyers, because it's an ordinance, at least set up the language for what that is if we're doing an ordinance change. Yeah, that's all I was gonna say with that. Okay.
Okay, is there anything? So at this time, we'll open it up to public comments. Yes.
Diana Kowalski, Marshall Township. And I'm just going to say out loud what everybody's thinking. Your meetings are too long. It would be very helpful if Liz had a microphone. We can't hear what she's saying when she has a lot to say. So I don't know if you can sit her near Wayne or
I
get
have
her a
another microphone back
microphone. So yeah, she should have a microphone so we can all hear. I think that the fire chief should be here at every board meeting. His report is early in the agenda. He can give his report and leave. If he can't be here for some reason, he should provide a written report so that we aren't always hearing the board members saying, well, if the fire chief was here, he could answer this question. We need a report from him every month. Back to 9C on your agenda. Carl needs to work with Shelley. They need to be a team. And someone mentioned that, so Shelley is trying to get used to being our zoning administrator. Carl is a zoning administrator for another community. He should willingly help her get settled into our humble abode here. And why he isn't expected to do that is beyond my recognition, my comprehension. As far as the Bear Creek property, if we own it, who pays taxes? Do we pay taxes on it? That's a question I have. I know Ford Motor Company wants to give Bear Creek Commons money, which is great. I just have a real hard time getting any money from that company. And what happens, my last question, what happens to the Bear Creek property if we say no? That would be, I think, could be part of our decision of saying yes or no. And I just want you all to know that Glenn is our treasurer at home, and he asks me these same questions every month, so.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Armitage. I'm the 911 director. I've been here for 3.5 hours to close this loop on the siren, so I figured I'll talk and close the loop on the siren. So I'll pass on the information that I have and then do with it what you please. But I was contacted 6 weeks ago by a contractor for MDOT. I don't know how they got my contact information for it, but requesting information about relocating the siren out of MDOT right away. It's at the corner of Michigan and Eden. So I forwarded that email, or included in that email, the fire chief, because he's always been my point of contact. What he does from there with it, I don't know, but that's been my point of contact for sirens. And then today I talked to Shelley. She reached out and I provided her 2 contacts for West Shore, which is the vendor. And then there was a follow-up email later in the afternoon. Essentially, from my understanding of it, the contractor for MDOT believes it's a reimbursable expense. I don't know if it is or not. But in my conversation with Shelley, just from my experience with these projects, my recommendation was to move it across the street on the north side, because on the south side, it looks like MDOT's planning on moving the power lines. And also there's some question about the future easement of Eden, whether that continues to be a public easement there. So my recommendation, just from working on these projects in the past, would be to have West Shore come out. They'll usually provide a quote at no charge for the quote, and see what the electrical service is in the area, especially across the street. And then have them provide a quote, and then obviously work with MDOT to see what the reimbursement process is on that. But I just want to close the loop on that because with MDOT reaching out to me, I just want to make sure that the ball's rolling where it needs to be rolling. So if at any point you have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to assist. I'm kind of nerdy with this kind of stuff, so I'm happy to help if you need any help.
I'm sorry, which organization were you with?
One.
Okay.
And your name again, sorry?
Michael Armitage.
Thank you.
Right, you have a question?
So You operate it, who operates it? If there's a tornado, your office takes it on
Correct.
from NOAA.
Correct, yes.
So we lost 50 houses. Who are you warning? Does this cost the township any money? Or is it state funded?
Yeah.
Who pays?
Who owns it?
Yeah.
We
The
own,
township owns the siren.
we own them.
So
Yes.
I make a resolution, we don't pay for that one. We don't pay for the one in the middle of the city of Marshall's property too, because there's another one on the city of Marshall's property. So we need to think about a couple more things here, not just moving that across the road 20 feet from my house. Because you're gonna warn propane tanks and 3 houses. Makes no sense.
So there's 7 sirens currently that we own. A Drive 15 mile, G Drive north and 16.5 mile road, which I think is where the bend is. C Drive north, approximately a half mile east of Ceresco.
That's all Marshall City property now,
Not the 16 and a half.
not
C
16.
Drive,
C Drive in Ceresco. That siren would be warning the people in the town of Ceresco.
but you're saying the siren is on a 425 property, is that what you're saying?
Sure is, they own it.
17.5 mile north of Highfield, J Drive north at 14 mile, Verona Road east of 15 mile. And then the one we're speaking of, West Michigan, just west of Eden Street.
So as far as,
Part of the dispatch, or I'm still, so I was told that the dispatch is the one that turns the sirens.
yes, correct, we are.
Okay, so you're part of that group.
Yes, I'm the director at dispatch. Yep. So as far as sirens, I mean, the ownerships, the townships, it's a local control issue, whether, I mean, if you don't want that siren there, they have a machine that basically pulls it up, they dig a new hole, they can move it. It's, you could put that really anywhere in the township you wanted. It's an expensive investment, so, and it's in really good condition, so there's a lot of options there, but I just wanted to make sure, just to touch base, and I want to be here in case there were any questions
Yeah.
regarding the
I
system.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's very helpful.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
I know it's really late but I'm going to go through the list, or I could send you an email, but I'm going to go through the list. I'm just going to go through the list. First of all, thank you very much for approving the master plan for distribution. So thank you for that. Maybe we could get together, maybe Wayne or Liz. I just want to understand the budget related to zoning or the planning commission budget, because I know there's buckets there and maybe we're not using them properly, just to better understand so that we know when to put in the budget for next year, what buckets are for what. So maybe you can help explain that to us. That would be great. I want to thank you for the nice reports for the FOIA, the Treasury report, as well as the newsletter. And thank you for the shout out to the Planning Commission in the newsletter. When you're looking at contracts, I think it would be good to figure out the copier, the IT, there's the services one, but do we have a contract with the assessor? Do we have a contract with the building inspector? I mean, what does that all look like? What's our purchasing policy? When do we go out for bid? I mean, I'm just trying to understand it. And what about cemetery mowing? I mean, just curious, because I know we paid $6,000 for cemetery mowing. Do we go out to bid? I don't know how that one works either. So just some thoughts on that. I do think our office manager is also the permit officer and gets dollars allocated for that. So I think that's part of it too. When you guys were talking earlier with the zoning applications and all of that, how does that fit into the permit officer position? And then just since he's still here, the 9/11 Central Dispatch Director, We have been trying at the Planning Commission to get the Michigan Department of Transportation to come to one of our meetings. They have refused to do so. And here's another example, as well as we're going to have this park and ride issue that was put in without proper zoning. Even the siren has to be in a proper area, I would hope, related to zoning, that we have to think about and not as an afterthought. So the Michigan Department of Transportation, here it is in our township, our area, and we are in the dark when it comes to this. So I would really hope and ask that this township board assist the planning commission, and I'm going to continue to go elsewhere as well, but that we get somebody from the Michigan Department of Transportation to tell us what's going on in our community. That would be really great. I know those are hardworking folks in transportation and public office, but geez, can you come help us and tell us what's going on? And we shouldn't have to pay for the siren relocation. That's not us who's done that in any way, shape, or form. So I also wanted to very quickly talk about Bear Creek. That, I have so many questions about that. Here it is, we're the ones that have to figure out the proposal and pay our attorney. They should be coming to us with a proposal. Are these folks tenants? If we own the building, can we boot them out at any time? What does that all look like? I would hate to have a liability, and I don't mean in terms of a liability in terms of the costs of this. And we all know that the MEDC paid a lot of money related to Bear Creek, and they either want their money back, I'm sure, or they know that to tear that down would be absolutely horrible in this community. The other thing to think about is what's the access drive going into Bear Creek? Maybe you guys know, but it's now blocked off, at least where it used to be. What does that all look like? There's just a ton of questions. So why aren't they coming to us with a proposal versus us right now having to spend our attorney time to try to figure that out? I would hope, and I know you guys will, that before we make any attempt to even consider this, we cannot have happen what has happened and we just get rolled over. So I's have to be dotted, T's have to be crossed. There is a lot of things to think about. So, and maybe maybe the township should relocate to Bear Creek. I don't know. What's the assessment of the building? What's the property? I know you guys all know this. And the other piece is, if I'm understanding correctly, there's the other property along the river too. At some point might be up for discussion into is that part of the park? Is that not part of the park? And that's 425, so how's that all work? So again, just a ton of questions related to that. And I just, as a concerned citizen more than anything, not to mention the zoning of Bear Creek, but is that we really spend a lot of time before we make any consideration. And frankly, I don't know why we're spending our attorney time. They should be coming to us. And the proposal should be in writing, frankly, not, are you interested type of thing. And let's see, hang on. I think I'm almost done. One last thing is the security cameras for the fire stations. I apologize, I walked out. If there's a UD-10 on that crash, I don't know if the police were called or Calhoun County, but I didn't see it in the report from the sheriff's office. But if there is a UD-10 on that, but how come the fire board isn't helping with this? Shouldn't they come and address this issue and bring it to the township's attention? Again,
They did. I mean, they talked about it at the last fire board, and that's why
you?
I shipped it to me to bring to the board. Sorry.
Interesting. Okay. All right. And then finally, August 4th is a very important day. It's election day, but we have a township planning commission meeting that day. So I think our zoning administrator will be working at least in the evening. I don't know how that all works. Don't know. But we will be at the fire station unless there's an emergency here, then we will cancel our meeting. But just to let everybody know, the next planning commission meeting is August 4th at the fire station. Thank you.
Right. Roger.
Thank you for, this is Roger Summers. I think we need to, I agree with her, what the expenses of Bear Creek is going to be. My big concern is the people of our community want to see it preserved. If the township doesn't step up, is the county going to do it? The state going to do it? Is Maida going to do it? Who, so we already got the question over there. I just, hopefully that we can move forward with this. I know it looks like it's going to cost us some money, but I can't see how we'll go wrong without this board and our township our community wants us to be involved in taking care of it. You know, they're gonna feel, so I'm in agreement with that. The sirens, I'm conflicted with sirens. Everybody has a cell phone. The cell phones are going off like crazy. And not to dismean 911, that they do their job and everything, but I didn't realize that our township pays for 7 of those towers that do absolutely, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to 911, does absolutely nothing. A siren goes off, 50 houses are gone. There's nobody, I'm there, it goes off about 5 minutes after my phone beeps, my wife's phone beeps, the kid's phone beeps. You know, so if this is costing us money, maybe we need to look at, do we really need all of them? You know, I think Squaw Creek probably needs them. I think the city of Marshall probably, I think Ceresco Town needs to have them. But as we move forward with this, if it's costing this township money, where is the tower that Emmett Township owns? Because Ceresco Village is 50% Emmett and 50% Marshall. So does Emmett pay for a tower the same distance that way than the one that's there, the one that's now on 425 city property? So in my opinion, I think we could look into, and I'm sure this company that contracts us for us, they'll say, well, yeah, we'll take 2 of them back and we'll knock $50 off. That's just the way life is. But I think we need to investigate the relevance of those towers. And now I forgot the third. Joanne covered so many things that I can't remember what else. I guess that's about it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on to board member comments.
I will just say we have an election before the next meeting, and so there's several things on the election, on the ballot, including a millage proposal. Just say, people come out and vote. That's all I will say. And appreciate all the election workers that will come out and work that day and put a lot of hard work to make sure that the people's voices are heard.
Just one else.
Very quickly, thank you very much to the Planning Commission for putting together a comprehensive master plan for us to look at. Just to let people know, if you don't already know, so the 425 property south of the river, south on Old 27, it's called, I can't remember what the development's called.
Millwood? Millbrook.
Millbrook. The Brownfield Authority, which is also the Downtown Development Authority and the LDFA Authority, has a meeting on the 23rd of July at 4 p.m. to hear public comment on the Brownfield proposal. I believe the Brownfield proposal is on the city's website. But in short, you know, we 425 that, the previous board 425 that property to the city without any understanding that there would be basically what amounts to a tax, incremental tax abatement. And as I understand, I believe the term of it is like 34 years roughly, where we wouldn't see a bulk of the tax pass through for that property. So we get 4 mills because it's commercial development. We would get 4 mills of whatever the city collects, but if the city collects nothing, we get nothing. So it's important, if you're interested in what's going on in the township, that you look at that proposal and give your feedback at that meeting. So, thank you.
What's the status of the fire truck?
It's supposed to come in, either, I want to say like next week or something, the end of this week, next week. So it's on its way, being delivered. Yeah. So the fire, chief wanted to have an open house, but he's like, related to, different things, but he wanted for the fire truck to be there, and so they're kind of waiting to figure out exactly when it arrives. That's supposed to be the next 2 weeks is when it's gonna be here.
There's just one more. There's been talk about the Maida CEO, so what does anybody know about that?
They severed, I had a call and they've severed their relationship. They didn't tell me anymore and I didn't ask anymore.
Yeah, that's what you sent out was all that I've heard, but it's been mentioned and I
And
didn't.
any contact is supposed to be with Mike Lunds, the chairman.
Right. Okay. That's it.
All right. No more? We are adjourned.
Okay. 10:40.